Hey everyone, and welcome to Comics from the Multiverse, the DC Comics podcast from MailFuzz TV. I am Peter, and unfortunately, Matt is not here this week. It's a crying shame, because it means that it's just me and Connor, who's also here.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Matt's just getting himself pumped up for Super Bowl nonsense. Which that's tomorrow, right?
I think that's tomorrow. Yes, he's been very busy these last few weeks because of Super Bowls and build up to it.
Busy.
I actually believe he's helping someone move house today, which is why he couldn't make it.
That's what he told you.
That's what he told me, but I wouldn't have been that much of if he said like I need like a day of like being in the sauna or something to prepare for Super Bowl, I wouldn't have been that weird about it. I'd have said he's been an idiot, but that'd have been it.
Yeah.
Does he get pampered the day before Super Bowl? Is that how this works? Anyway, we talk about DC Comics on this show, and coming up this week is a big week of books. We have Heroes in Crisis issue 5, Detective Comics 997, Action Comics 1007. We have Wonder Woman 63, Justice League Annual issue 1, The Flash 63, The Flash Annual number 2, Batgirl 31, Justice League Odyssey number 5, The Terrifics 12, and finally The Silencer number 13. Unless I've missed something that Connor didn't read.
I was really waiting for you to say something and me go, oh, damn it, I forgot about that one. But I'm pretty sure I read them all that I was supposed to.
Yeah, I was supposed to. Obviously, there's one or two that you don't read. Well, just one.
Just Action this week, right?
Yeah, you still had like 10 books.
Yeah, I still had a lot.
Oh, fair enough then. This is going to be a meaty book show. And why not? A little bit of news first, not a lot, but just a little sprinkling. But otherwise, yes, so, yeah.
Is it interesting news?
One of them is.
You say that. I feel like I'm going to hate it.
One of them's very interesting. But yeah. So apologies, this episode's actually a bit later than normal. This will be more of a Sunday morning episode than it is your typical late Saturday publication time. Just blame Connor, basically, is my thing. But we could...
Often I will accept that. Not this time.
This is still kind of your fault. You messed around with the timings, and then that had a knock-on effect. It was a whole thing. Anyway,
you fell asleep.
Comics podcast. After you pushed the record, we'd have been done recording by the time I fell asleep.
All I'm saying is, you fell asleep.
Had we recorded at the normal time, we'd have been finished.
Okay, so yes, it would have been slightly later than normal. If you fell asleep, so now it's much later than normal. So this is on you as well. You
weren't ready that early. Anyway, news. We have DC news. First one is just kind of a minor note for next month's issue of Justice League Odyssey. The solicits kind of changed. They've replaced the story that they'd originally solicited it with.
Well, that's interesting, given that this ends on a...
It still sounds like it's tying into what's happening here, but obviously Abnett's taking over the book with the next issue. It sounds like just the general, maybe the direction is shifting a little bit, but it says that it's going to be kind of a story focused on Blackfire next issue, and whatever the original story has been scrapped, but it was solicited in November.
Okay.
So it probably doesn't.
It's not easing any of my concerns that I had about this change of writer.
I guess it just means that it's becoming Abnett's book more than it's just him taking what Williamson had, planned and rolling with it. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the outline's that different overall. Maybe where the Ghost Sector story is going might still be very much where it's still going.
Well, I think obviously we'll get to when we talk about the issue, but there are things in this that indicate some things have to happen.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, the outline can't change that drastically.
Well, no, but I'm wondering if it's changed from whatever Williamson was going to do, because we even hear it mentioned in the Justice League Annual this week.
We do, yeah.
So I'm wondering if Abnett was brought on board to make it tie more into what the main books are doing. I don't know.
Maybe.
But the more interesting bit of news this week. Now, there's been no announcement for this.
This is going to be some shitty Bendis news, isn't it?
There's been no announcement for this. But one can't help but notice the date of sale on the DC Comics page for a certain Doomsday Clock issue.
Don't you dare. Don't you dare.
Doomsday Clock issue 9 on DC Comics website is now listed as coming out on the 27th of February, which is a week further than what we'd originally had from last update. Because last time it got delayed, it was delayed to the 20th by like a week or two.
I'm verifying on what Comixology is saying at the moment. Is this issue 10?
9.
Issue 9. Damn it. Click into the series.
27th of February is what DC Comics website.
Okay. Comixology still has it at the 20th. Last time this happened, because it was the first issues of Heroes in Crisis, I think it was, and I said, no, it's been pushed. The date on there says it, and then it wasn't.
That's true. However, this doesn't feel that unrealistic.
It doesn't, no. No, it doesn't.
I mean, it's already been delayed like 4 times. 1 more week's not that hard to swallow is a believable story.
I've told you, if it comes to it, I will read literally just Doomsday Clock. I'll pop onto the show, do that bit, and then I'll leave you to the rest of it. But I'm not bloody missing it again. Yes,
for those of you who are unaware, that is a week where Connor is just getting back from vacation, like the day we record, so it's highly unlikely he'll be able to join us for the regular episode. And we think it's funny because of like 2 out of the first 3 issues of Doomsday Clock Connor had to miss, and we've been making fun of him ever since. That he always has to leave an episode.
I have been here for the vast majority overall now.
Which is against character. It's not what the fans expect of you. You should really rethink that.
I'm not missing every Doomsday Clock. God damn it. They better not pull this shit on the final issue.
Oh, see if the final issue, like, let's say you have something you just can't get out of. Like, the final issue of Doomsday Clock comes out the week that, I don't know. Probably your girlfriend. Your girlfriend's roping you into something, and it's something that means a lot to her, and you can't get out of it because it's, you know, this is like breakup potential if you say no. Right?
She'll understand. Unless it's another case where I'm not in the country. In which case, there's not much I can do about that one.
No. I think like, see, the obvious thing to say is that there's a tragedy happens. I don't want to be dark about this, but like something happens where you have to go somewhere and you can't make the episode on the final issue.
Don't do this to me.
But yeah, so I mean, this could just be a mistake on DC Comics website, but it does say it on sale 27th of February, which is 1 week later. Which at this point doesn't really make much of a difference. Although it is worth mentioning now that this issue, if it does go to that week, is a full month later than originally solicited. So
yeah,
which
means you can probably knock all the others issues back a month.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that, honestly, even with it out on the 20th, I still think it's weird that they've not said, oh, by the way, the issue that was meant to be in March, that's going to be April now, and so on.
Yeah.
But, because just do it in one fell swoop, just say all the issues have been back 1 month exactly, and just, that's you've covered it.
Yeah, I know Marvel does this a lot. DC tends to not do that. What they'll do is they just won't say until it's that issue, and then they'll just resolicit the issues, and you'll get to the month, so next month solicits when we should have had a Doomsday Clock. It just won't be there.
Because
they
all
did
the
that
ones,
they did that with Shazam, didn't they?
All the ones previously have been knocked back. I wonder if it's because they're hoping that, against hope, that somehow maybe it will get back on schedule, and they don't want to actually announce anything, even though that seems very unlikely at this point.
Yeah.
But hey, so yeah, that was just the news that stuck out to me when I had a quick search before. Not a bunch of stuff, but interesting all the same. It's really funny to me. Alright, we got a lot of books, so let's not waste time. Let's just dive into some comics.
Yeah.
Where's my device here? Right. So, starting off with Heroes in Crisis issue 5, Tom King writing, Clay Mann on art, with a couple of pages by Travis Moore as well, I believe. So, yeah, what did you think of Heroes in Crisis issue 5? You've been a bit down on it. I mean, a lot of people have been down on it, admittedly, but
I thought it was another issue of Heroes in Crisis. No, I mean that seriously. In that, I feel like this is possibly the most decompressed it's been. But yeah, obviously I'm not feeling it. This was another one where I'm just I'm not really feeling it. I did find Babs' voice a bit off. Maybe that was just me.
No, there was a line of dialogue which said "Batman, you rock" or something to that effect, and it really stuck out to me as weird.
Yeah, okay, so it wasn't just me.
Yeah, no, that line was weird. That did stick out to me. It is worth mentioning, Matt has read all his books. He has sent me his ratings for every book, as well as his obviously top 5 and so on. So
no thoughts at the end of each book, though, right?
No thoughts, no. But he did give me a nice. I mean, to be fair, this was still 11 books all rated. So I mean, he put in some effort to this.
He did.
So Credit to him. He didn't skimp on the rein, even though it's Super Bowl week when his team's in the Super Bowl.
It is.
So here's
where you got Travis Moore from?
I look at the credits page. He's in the pizza box in the fold.
Oh, okay. It's weird that he's not on the front page, on the front cover.
Oh, sure. All right, he's just like a fill-in, I guess. So didn't get.
Yeah. But usually they still get a cover credit.
I'll be honest. The only reason why I even noticed that is because I saw him tweet that he was in the fold of the pizza box. So when I got to that page, I was like, oh yeah, there he is in the fold of the pizza box.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, 8, 12, and 13. So Booster Gold and Blue Beetle are kind of planning to try and like exonerate him by solving the crime, and Blue Beetle wants
of course they are.
Wants to try and steal evidence from the Flash again, even though it failed miserably and got him locked up the first time. His thinking is that it's the dumbest thing possible, so the smart heroes won't think of it because it's so dumb.
I don't think he's wrong.
Yeah, we have more interviews, of course, throughout as the entire series has had. Babs wants to use Skeets to try and track down Booster Gold. And again, we get that weird line where she says, Batman, you rock, with the thumbs up as well, which, I don't know, feels really weird.
A little conflicted. Batman says, oh, Skeets, he's been checked, it's all fine. And obviously, we saw Skeets down with Bane, right? So, what's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, Babs, like, him letting Babs have another pass because she's Oracle and is good with computers makes sense, right? Fine.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm not sure, though. The art's typically pretty good, right? As Clayman is, right? Clayman is typically a very good artist. Drawing Batgirl, for some reason, he struggles with making it not look bulky and busty, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, that first page where she's kneeling down, I mean, it's not as bad as some of the pages that he's drawn with her, but there's something about her that just feels a bit much.
It's definitely not as bad as the last issue, though.
No, in fact, speaking of that, there's the following page, Lois is with Clark, and this is exactly the tone that he probably wanted for that last scene with Lois and Clark. You know, because it's more normal. She's in PJs, they're kind of hugging. This feels a bit more in line with what we'd have expected. But they're basically talking about the fact that the Sanctuary story's out, and how the public are starting to not trust heroes because this place exists. And they didn't know about it, that they were being lied to about it. So, I mean, the issue kind of builds up to Superman making this big speech with Wonder Woman on TV, where he talks about heroes being human, and this shouldn't terrify you. This should comfort you that they're humans like you, that they need help, they have problems, and that kind of thing. Which is I think is probably the standout thing of the book, this issue. That I think people who have enjoyed the issue probably latched onto that. I think more than anything else.
I would have assumed so, yes.
Because it is a really good speech, really good scene. So I'll admit I did get kind of amused that Harley keeps thinking of new ways to like kill people, you know, or different words to use instead of kill, and Babs keeps having to correct and say, no, Harley, that's still killing.
Yeah. It's like, I'm not gonna kill them, I'll just murder them.
Yeah, I get that. I was kind of into it for the most part. So we get to Superman making this big speech, and we see like various characters around the world reacting. You know, Jim Gordon's there, Blue Devil's there.
Yeah, I thought this was actually kind of a weird sequence as it went on. You know, once we get into the stuff overlaying it with all the other heroes.
Well, yeah, because it's interesting to know that King was implying, it was teasing that this book has a tease for what his next book's going to be, and you know, in the same way that Mr. Miracle is a 12-issue book.
Right. Okay.
So people are thinking either Adam Strange or Mr. Terrific based on the page with those two.
Okay. I get that, but then, like, you know, the sequence goes on and we go through all these other heroes, and I don't quite get a lot of none of them have any relevance to this story, right? So it felt a little strange to choose all of these to me. Maybe there's a reason I don't get yet, but I don't know. That one was weird to me.
I think it was just to show a wide array, because you've got that page that goes from Atom to Swamp Thing to Zatanna to Starfire to Aquaman.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, actually, to be honest, that's one of the best pages of the book in terms of art. I actually really like that page.
No, it is. I happen to agree. Great. The art on these it's like 3 or 4 pages. Between Adam Strange, you've got the Shining Knight with the dragon, then you got all the others. I thought it was a great sequence in terms of the art. It just felt kind of strange in this book.
I think what I liked about that page specifically is I like how they're in like 5 columns, but they don't necessarily stick to their columns. I like Starfire especially is almost barely even in her column, because her column's like the space background, but she's actually mostly in the other panel.
Yeah, none of them are in it. Atom is over here. Swamp Thing, you have just the flowers coming out. Zatanna's whole hand.
Yeah, Aquaman has the tentacles of the octopus or whatever at the top, kind of bleeding over. Yeah. It's a really nice page.
It is. The page before the full page spread. Very interesting choice, right?
Yeah, like you imagine this is going to come into play at some point. And then one of the final scenes of the issue towards the end is as the speech is still going on, is you see the city, right? I don't actually know I'm going to assume Gotham based on the blimps, but I mean,
based on the blimps and the bridges, I would agree.
Yeah. So because usually you get a bat signal to tell you, or the Wayne Tower, one of the two. You'll get one of those things to tell you unequivocally this is Gotham City.
Yeah, but I can't think of any other city that we ever see blimps.
That's true. No, I can't. But you see a rose wash up at the edge of the shore, and a hand picks up. It's got a red glove on, whoever it is, and obviously you can't help see a rose and not think, okay, is this poison ivy related, right?
Sure.
That's what my mind jumped to. I don't know.
Mine didn't jump to that, but okay.
I mean, she did die in this story.
Yeah, she did, but I don't know. My mind just didn't go to it. But fair enough.
That's where my mind went, just because she's been a feature in this story. I'm not suggesting that's who this is. This looks like a man from the shadow. But again,
I have a guess based off the very next panel.
Oh, go on. What's your guess?
Well, the next panel is we need to discuss what Booster and Ted found.
Mm-hmm.
Which is that, Booster specifically is that Wally's body isn't right. It's 5 days too old.
Yes.
There's been some time travel shenanigans.
Hmm.
And, I'm seeing a red glove. I got reasons to assume that this might be the time travel shenanigan Wally.
Cool. If there's time travel shenanigans already in play, then us fixing this by the end is again back
suddenly
on the table.
Easier.
Yeah, it's back on the table. Now, admittedly, this week finally killed my theory that only Roy was going to be addressed in any other books, but I mean, we'll get to that in some of the other books.
Yeah, I think that unequivocally says this is not any sort of simulation.
Yeah, but time malarkey still very much on the table.
Yeah.
It's still very much on the table. And again, this is the thing, like, even if you think I'm in denial about Wally, I'll keep coming back to it. There is no way Poison Ivy's staying dead. There is not one iota of possibility that Poison Ivy, one of the most merchandise-selling machines that DC have, is staying dead.
We will see.
You're the one who likes Poison Ivy.
I do. I just want... You know how I say this all the time. I want consequences to stick in these books sometimes.
Not in this book, I don't.
Well, that's the thing. I'm conflicted because obviously I don't want Wally to die, but I want people to just be dead, damn it.
I want consequences to stick when I feel that the death was worldly and earned. All these characters dying off panel is not a worldly death for any of them.
It's not. But that bothers me almost slightly more in that it's even worse in how cheap it is, right? For the moment of the start of the story.
Yeah, how cheap it is depends on...
Okay, here's one of the biggest problems this book is going to have in the long run. And by the long run, I don't mean in the future. I mean for anyone who's been reading this monthly. When you get to the end and Wally's alive, it's going to have no impact. Because no one thought he was dead anyway.
I think this book lives or dies for its legacy at the end. Based on what its point is. Like, what point does it make at the end? Because assumingly there's going to be a point.
I would assume so, yeah.
Assumingly. That's not even a word, is it? I think I mixed up assuming with presumably and came up with assumingly.
I think you did.
Yeah. But, presumably there's going to be this point at the end where there's going to be like a final thing. This is what the point of the story was. This is what the message it was trying to get out. And maybe a big part of that is what Superman's saying in his speech is that heroes are people too, and they have fears, they have trauma, they have all these things that regular human beings do, and we have to address that. They need this kind of thing too. They need help.
Yeah.
And that should comfort you because it means they are more like you. They're not these separate entities who are, infallible, right? That should be a comfort if you really think about it. But of course, most people won't. They'll just jump to conclusions, blah, blah, blah. I feel like if the point that is made at the end, what should stick, if there's one thing that should stick is the point, and whatever the point is made at the end, what the ending result of this book is, there should be a consequence that sticks from that. If that feels like it was worth something, if that feels like whatever it sticks at the end of this is worth the point it's making, and by sticking, and then should stick for a long time, if it does kill someone at the end, that person should stay dead for a while, forever maybe. Then I think you'll look back at this and see it as to getting to that point, and therefore I think it will justify a lot of the weirdness of it. I think right now, reading this month to month, there is this weird element of they feel like shock deaths because we get one part at a time. And they never do this, but it almost feels like, is this one of these things that would have just been better to put as a graphic novel? Which is weird because they don't really do those in continuity.
Yeah. But maybe they should.
But because I'm thinking how many movies that exist would probably cause riots and reactions if they just put out the first 20 minutes, and you don't get the next 20 minutes for another couple months,
Yeah, they probably would.
I mean, TV handles it very well, and maybe that's what comics should be kind of. If they're going to ape another format, they should build it into TV and how they handle it. But
yeah, and obviously, TV's come a long way over the years, as as comics, of course. It's interesting to me that they've both gotten more serialized as they've gotten older, right? Especially in the modern digital age where it's much more accessible to go back and read stuff.
Yeah, they both have, absolutely. I mean, comics kind of did it first, almost to the point of too much, when it was hard to keep track of all these things, and because comics got very continuity heavy before the trades were even a regular thing, which is a nightmare to think about.
Yeah, but. Maybe there's a lesson to be learned there where when we do our TV reviews, especially with Netflix shows, we talk a lot about how we like how when an episode feels like you get a full episode as well as being part of the larger thing.
Yeah, admittedly though, sometimes it's fine if they do it the other way. If that's what they've designed it as and it works well as that, then that's fine. I think the big difference between that and a monthly comic is that you do, even when we watch them episode by episode, we do it every other day. That they're fairly quick coming, and it's still functions in a way that works. I think the problem with a monthly comic like this is that it's hard not to see all these deaths as shock value in order to make people want to come back and read the next issue. And I'm going to stick up for King, and I don't necessarily think that's what he's thinking when he writes it. I think he's got his final point in mind, and he wants to build this story up. And
in his head, because he already knows the ending. Yeah, it's hard to look at it from a point of view with someone who doesn't, right?
Yeah. So I feel like he's not getting with this. Oh, this will make them all enraged, and they'll come back next month. I don't think that's what he's thinking when he's writing it, and maybe that's a fault that he doesn't predict how people are going to take his story. It's at the earlier points.
Yeah, he's certainly not the only writer to have this problem.
Oh, absolutely, he's not. Because King, for the most part, seems like a fairly reasonable guy to talk to. When anyone ever criticizes his work on Twitter or something, he tends to be quite responsive to it and talk about it and whatnot.
Obviously, I've not been into this story, the writing in general lately, but I'm not gonna badmouth him as a person.
No, he seems like a very reasonable dude. I think if he has a fault, it's that he doesn't necessarily think about people reading his book month to month and how they're going to react to each issue, or at least if he is, he's maybe misgauging the reaction it's getting.
Between this and where we've been in Batman for the last handful of issues. I definitely think it's something that he could do with looking at as he progresses in his career. Yeah, I mean, obviously he's still, relatively speaking, quite a new comic book writer, new to the medium.
So it's only been a few years, really, when you think about it. I mean, Grayson was his first book, and that was co-writing.
He might have done a few other things smaller before. I'm not sure. It was definitely his first.
It was his first book at DC, but he'd never done an ongoing at Marvel or anything, because obviously he did Vision soon after, during Grayson.
I think during the tail end of Grayson.
Yeah. And he did Omega Men around that time as well. And then it was right after that he was Batman. I mean, the biggest book in
exactly.
comics, or DC Comics at least.
So like I say, he's still, relatively speaking, a newcomer to working in the medium. Maybe it's something that he can look at as he goes forward.
Yeah. So And I'm aware that he's probably done a couple of indie things before he went to DC. Like, I don't need to be corrected on that. I know that, but yeah. So I mean, it's funny because I have liked elements of this book a lot more than you have. This issue, like, I feel like has the best of this series with the Superman speech, and like the Wally being 5 years older than he should be was a great moment. Like, that was like
probably the most advancement we've had on the mystery.
Yeah, well,
so far.
When Booster said that, I was like, oh shit, right? Timey-wimey, let's go. And I was kind of like into that as an idea. But it also, like every time it cut to an interview of one of the heroes, who for the most part in this issue are kind of small-time heroes, most of those weren't really landing for me anymore. And I almost started to feel like, you know, I could probably do without these interview pages now. They're starting to...
There's too many. Like, don't get me wrong, there are bits that I like in them, like I think it was the Protector, the don't do drugs. I did drugs.
Yeah, I feel like there's like 4 or 5 per book, and there probably should be just like 2 per book, maybe at the book ends.
Yeah.
Or something.
It's just like they kind of like individually reading the page, they're often fine.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I just mentioned that Protector one. Yeah, it gave me a good chuckle, but I mean, it kind of really hurts the flow of the book, because that went from the exciting stuff, you know, Booster with Flash, and then that page with that interview page, and then into the Superman speech. I don't know. It kind of really just took me out of the moment of the flow.
Assuming this does not anger me at the end, I genuinely believe, and I've said this in a few of the issues, but after issue 5, I genuinely believe this will read better in trade. I think reading all this back to back will make the stilted kind of structure to it work better, because it's a whole. And I think the biggest problem is getting one chunk of this monthly and having just the story progress this much. And I don't necessarily need the overall story to progress that much, but I need an arc for like one character to progress over an issue.
Yeah,
to make it feel like an issue.
Going back to what I said about the TV shows, you know, feeling like I got something out of each episode. And here, I need something out of each issue. And I don't feel like I've gotten that in any of them. I mean, arguably the first one had that, because it at least had the, okay, that's the setup.
Yeah, the discovery of what's going on.
Yeah, but since then, I don't feel like there's been, okay, that's the thing this issue that will have as the ongoing plot arc that while everything else carries on around it.
Yeah, it's a murky one. It's funny because some people are just like, oh, I hate this. This is like horrible DC. We're back in New 52. It's, you know, Didio telling King to like kill tons of people, and that's like the most cynical side of it. That's when you get to doom and gloom. And I don't want to jump down that hole, because I don't feel like it is just that. But at the same time, it does have all these problems. It's hard to kind of.
I do think, you know, I can be very okay with decompressed storytelling.
If anything, I prefer it, because and obviously you like Bendis, but I see it a lot with Bendis, is even Naomi issue 1, which me and Matt both loved. Me and Matt both raved about that book and gave it a 9. I think he gave it a 9.5. I see people saying, "Oh, not enough story happening in this issue. The comics are too decompressed," and I'm like, I kind of like this level of decompression. To me, this is kind of what good serialized storytelling does. But you know, whatever.
No, that's fair. I think here though, when we are this issue is the midpoint.
Yeah, this is the middle of the main issues.
Only just got our first clue, really. With this Wally thing, that's the first proper clue to the mystery, as far as I'm concerned. I think it's taken a bit too long to get to the first real breadcrumb.
What I think's interesting is that this was 7 issues and it got bumped up to 9, and I wonder if those 2 issues were in this first half. It kind of feels like that. This is where, like,
I'm willing to bet they were.
Like they like someone wanted more, basically just character introspection in the first half, so we got 2 more issues of that before it kept moving.
I bet you about an issue's worth is all those interview pages. You cut out those, and add in a couple of extra pages, some because it is so serialized, you can move some stuff around from each issue. You do that, cut out all those interview pages, that probably gets it down to 8 already.
Maybe even 2 issues, to be honest. But by the time we get to the end,
yeah, maybe.
If these interviews go all the way to the last issue, which they might.
I mean, how many were in this one? So you had Booster, Commander Steel, Solstice, Protector,
and Harley at the end.
And then Harley. So that's 5 in this issue alone.
Yeah, so if it's 5 times... I'm going to assume the last one doesn't. I'm going to assume issue 9 doesn't, just because it's the last one.
Oh, yeah, but that's still...
8 times, so that's 40 pages. That's 2 issues.
That's 2 issues.
There's 2 full issues. And I've liked some of them, so it's not like they've all been bad.
Yeah, and that's it. I'm not saying cut all of them immediately, because obviously, especially the bookend ones, I think are okay. Those typically work a little bit better because they don't hurt any flow. But, I mean, yeah, there's your 2 issues already.
Yeah, because I was fine with this pace back in issues 2 and 3. I think issue 3 I liked quite a bit, actually. In fact, I liked issue 4 outside of the big problems I had. Like issue 4 I thought had the best story of the 4 up to that point. But it had those other, the problematic panels, it had the other things that were bugging me, and kind of dragged it down a bit. This one's a weird one where it's probably the first time I feel like the story's not advanced enough for where it should be, given that we're halfway through it now. I feel like we're still in the opening act. Or
it's so conflicting, right?
It's kind of what you just said, actually. This discovery about Wally feels at the end of Act 1, but we're at the end of issue 5 after, out of 9.
Yeah, that's why it's so conflicting, because that is arguably the biggest leap forward in the plot we've had in any issue.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going, well, hang on, I don't feel like we've moved forward enough. It kind of makes you realise, doesn't it?
Yeah. But I mean, I'm still invested in the sense that I care about all these characters. It's not like badly written for the most part. I mean, there was that weird Babs line that really stuck out to me for some reason. And it's funny because obviously King's been writing Batman and Batman characters for a while now.
Yeah.
He's typically pretty good at it. I wonder if there's something else at play here that's making her act different. And I don't think there is necessarily, but that line stuck out to me as being like, that doesn't sound like Babs.
She doesn't feel like there's anything causing her to act different. Just felt a bit off.
Because the rest of it's fine when she's jumping. Because one of the other nice pages of the book actually is her jumping with Harley off the building. It's during Superman's speech. Like they're kind of leaping and it's like all shadowy and there's it's a nice panel. It's a nice page, and she's like Harley, don't kill, no killing. And I'm like, okay, this feels like Babs, but Batman giving the thumbs up to Batman and saying "You rock" feels oddly out of character. Like, and it's not so much that Barbara Gordon doesn't have that sense of humor, and I can see her saying that to other characters. I've never seen her speak to Batman like that.
She's usually a little more formal with Bruce, and not like really like strict. Like it's not like like a student and a teacher sort of formal.
Yeah. It's just I feel like her sense of humor just maybe lends itself. Like I can see her being cheesy like this when she's like with a kid she saved or something like that.
Yeah, even with Dick.
But to other heroes, I feel like it's more of a snarky, not in a bad way, like a fun snarky kind of.
Like sarcastic.
Yeah, but maybe a bit sassy, if you want to throw that in there. Just a little bit sassy. Whereas this just kind of felt cheesy. It was almost like she was being sarcastic with him, because it felt so off.
Yeah, and to be honest, even some of the Batman dialogue felt him going, "Oh, I'm Batman. I don't do press." I'm like, I know that's technically true, but it just felt like a weird line for him.
No, that's fair. All right, what are you rating it?
I'm gonna go with a 4.5. In that, I feel very similar to how I have been. Slightly better than the last issue. In that, I got some advancement, but also a lot of pacing and structural issues as I'm reading it.
I'm gonna go with a 6. There's still things I really like in this book. Some of the problems are mounting up a little bit, but I was really excited by the Wally revelation. I like the Superman speech. There's some really nice pages in here, but Bab's dialogue was a bit off in a couple of panels, and her art was a bit off in a couple of panels. It's almost like no one, even in like Batgirl's own book, which we'll be talking about later, it's almost like no one right now who's drawing her knows how to draw that bat symbol over her boobs in this new costume. Like, it always seems to be kind of skewed or weird, or like, how do we put this over our breast? No one seems to know how to do it right now. With the possible exception of, who was it designed? It was
Murphy, wasn't it?
Oh, Murphy. It was Murphy, yeah. Like, Murphy seemed to know what he was doing because he designed the suit. Everyone else since seems like they're struggling to make it look right in any pose other than just standing upright.
Yeah, that's fair.
But hey, so I give it a 6. Matt, he gave Heroes in Crisis a 7.5.
Let's remember though, that's on the lower end for Matt.
I mean, I'm going to take a guess and say the extra 1.5 over me is purely that Superman speech. I'm going to call it right now. He's not here to tell me that, but I'm guessing it. That'll take us on, though, to Detective Comics 997, Peter J. Tomasi writing, Doug Mahnke on the art. Credit to Mahnke, this is his 4th issue in a row of a double shipping book. Now, I'm sure he had some lead time, but it's impressive enough.
Yeah, you get a bit of a head start when it's the start, when it's the first 4 issues.
Well,
so
if they handle like Batman and plan the arcs out well enough, we might actually get, you know,
well, I mean,
arc to arc.
That was always the plan for all of the double shipping books, and Batman was the only one that managed to have any semblance of consistency.
Okay, that's true. I think Flash pulls it off here or there. Like, depending on the arc, Flash sometimes does it, but then sometimes doesn't. Because there was definitely like arcs with just Scott Kolins or arcs with just Howard Porter, you know, for a while.
Shorter arcs typically though.
Yeah, DJ Domenico I think did all a Perfect Storm. Like,
he did that first. Like he did like quite a lot in a row at the start, didn't he?
I think he missed one out of that first trade of 8. I think he missed like 1 or 2 out of the 8. So
really?
He did a lot, but not all of it. So they tried their best, but hey. But yeah, so not the Flash Batman. It's because you mentioned Detective, yeah. But you know what I meant, same difference. Alright, Detective 997. So we teased that he was going to try and help the original Mr. Miracle in the last issue because he also helped train him. So we kind of start with them in a trap. So the villain has put them in it's actually Mr. Miracle's home, but they've rigged his home to be a tank. And they've got sharks in there, eventually there's piranha, and it's essentially an escape sequence, which I guess feels fitting when you're dealing with a Mr. Miracle. So it's a whole escape act. I know Matt wasn't so hot in this issue. He felt it was a bit too because Batman.
Yeah, I tend to agree. There's a lot of that in this.
Yeah, honestly, the one that made me groan was him firing his bat ear at a shark. That was the one where I went, oh, this is a bit too stupid now.
I'm really conflicted as to how he got the ear back on. Like I see him. Yeah, so is it the page after that? No, 2 pages. As they're swimming up to escape. So I see him get out of his rope stuff. I see him grab the ear in his hand on the 3rd panel, and in the 4th panel, it reattaches just like that, like to just clip back on because it looks kind of seamless.
I guess it does. I mean, at least it shows you grabbing him. I thought you were going to tell me it just appeared again.
No, I can see it in his hand.
No, that's fair.
To be fair.
Yeah, the art's quite good in this one. Typically.
Yeah, for the most part, I agree. Yeah.
You know, all the underwater stuff looks good. But this is most of the issues. This is just this kind of fun sequence of them breaking out. I think I liked it more than Matt did. I mean, I do agree some of the moments of how they get out of the situation is a bit like, okay, cheesy Batman gets out of the situation moment. The ear blasting off and like firing at something feels a lot like when the Scott Snyder and All-Star Batman did a square in my chest comes out and does this thing now. And I'm like, really? You just got a square in your chest that does this, that comes out? Like, I don't know. It's one of those things where I just like, okay, how many gadgets is just baked into the parts of the suit? Like, his utility belt has a lot of stuff in it, right? That's fine. That's always been the case. But when random parts of the suit have like tech hidden in them, I'm just kind of like, oh, okay, this is...
At least, like, if you tell me it's something in the bat symbol, often that's like a raised section. You know, I can buy something there. The ear, it's always... even in this issue, it looks so seamless. Like... I don't understand how it comes off and clips back on.
The bat symbol's fine if it's the whole thing comes off and there's like just one thing behind it or something like that. I think that Snyder one in All-Star Batman, it was just weird to me because it was all these random squares just started popping out as if it was all these little doors, and I'm just like, no, can we not do that? Anyway, so they get out eventually. Mr. Miracle almost dies, but Batman saves him, of course. And the villain's there, the monstrous kind of thing, although he's taken the form of a kind of evil-looking Batman. And we get a fight with him, sort of... What was it he's yelling? I could take everything, all in the blink of an eye. I know all your secrets, all your fears, blah, blah, blah. You know, villain speech. And he actually... after that, he turns into the dying Waynes to kind of, you know, mess with his head, as you do. And then even Joe Chill at one point. So... Yeah,
we got some, you know, Robins and Alfreds and Bat family members.
They're the Bat family. And, you know, I was digging the art on these pages quite a bit, I thought, for the most part.
Yeah, most looks alright. It's I think over inked or overshadowed at the very least. But it's got a good flow.
It's got a good flow. I typically like the colouring.
Yeah, I agree with
that. So it, like, you know, it's what it is, and, you know, Bruce goes off at the end. He's like, nah, like, this is a solo mission. I have to go off and do something. And then the ending is basically him crashing Hugo Strange's place. And I love that Hugo's actually in his bat suit. he's got like a bat suit on.
Yeah. Do we know why?
Well, this is back to Hugo's whole. This is classic Hugo, really.
No, but do we know why he's wearing it now? Just when he hasn't been for a while?
Right now, no. I'm sure that'll be something that comes up next issue, but it's certainly not like a out of nowhere thing though for him to have a bat suit.
No, I don't remember the last time I saw it.
Because this is if you're not familiar with Hugo Strange, he's obsessed with Batman. He's obsessed with finding out who he is, which he does traditionally. He knows who he is. And he's obsessed with testing him, becoming him, all these things. So yeah, but no. No, I mean, I like that double page layout of like he's like, oh, there's a crash of some kind. There's a boom. He's like, my lab's destroyed. Whoever this will pay with this with death. And then the final page is just Batman coming towards him saying "Strange," with the lightning behind him. Very, it's not quite Dark Knight Returns, but I think the lightning being behind him certainly evokes that memory.
Yeah.
I thought it was a fine issue. I thought it was a fun action sequence. It doesn't really advance much in the way of plot or whatever, but as far as these issues go, with like each one's him meeting like a mentor from his past and kind of
yeah, I thought it was all right. Like I said, it is a bit because Batman-y. It feels kind of easy to get out of it all.
Yeah, that's fair. It's kind of a weird thing where they just start in the trap already, and that's kind of fine to a point. We've established that this villain is like up to things, but it felt the weirdest issue in the sense that we just it is just this one thing for the most part.
It feels a little overly elaborate for them to be in the trap and then just we'll just try and kill you anyway, even though just been trying to kill him the last few issues.
I do genuinely think that this might be a padding issue because of how focused it is, just to have this one.
It feels sequence. Like, we maybe had a 4-issue story, but we need 6 because Detective 1000.
Yeah. So, and especially, and I can actually kind of sympathize with that, especially if like the story leads into what your Arkham Knight reveal is in 1000 is.
Yeah, I think honestly, my preferred solution would have been do 2 issues differently at the start. Do something different to start off with.
Yeah, I think the logic there though is that well, it's the start of our run. We have to start our big first arc and
have another 2 issues of fill-in.
Yeah, that'd be one way of doing it.
Yeah,
but
that's what I would have ideally have had. But I mean, this isn't the worst. It's enjoyable enough. It's
an enjoyable read. It has pretty nice art. Like there's a lot to complain about, just in a sense. Like it's a very easy read. Tomasi and Mahnke are very solid and dependable to just give you a nice solid comic that you don't regret reading, so it's hard to be too down on it, but it does kind of feel like, okay, had to pad a little bit. Here's Batman escaping a shark attack.
Yeah, pretty much. For
the whole issue, almost. And it's fine. It's fine what it is. So I'll start with Batman's rating, Matt's rating on this.
God, I hope he never hears this. He doesn't need that ego boost.
Well, we know Matt doesn't like Because Batman, and he definitely went low in this for him. He gave us a 5.5.
Wow, that is very low for Matt.
That's very low for Matt. He did tank this one a little bit. What are you giving it?
I'm gonna go higher than Matt, which is unusual.
Yeah, this is better than a 5.5. I don't agree with that score.
No, I'm gonna go 6.5. I don't think it's good enough to be a 7, which is kind of like, okay, this is good, but it's enjoyable enough.
Yeah. I mean,
if you think it's a 7, then fine.
Yeah, I'm kind of tempted to go with a 7. I feel like I had enough fun, and I like the ending with Strange, and I like the cliffhanger of Strange, but I can see the argument for 6.5. I'll go with a 7, though. I'll be nice. I'll be positive. 7 out of 10.
All right.
For Detective 997. If Detective 998 can get an 8 out of me...
is he going to keep going up and up?
Yeah. We'll probably get to 1000, which should hopefully be a 10. That's the hope.
Did we rate action? Because obviously we did the special thing. Did we rate individual stories in that?
Yeah, I think we ranked the individual story. I don't know if we rated the whole thing overall. I think from memory, I'd probably give it like a 9 overall, not a 10.
Yeah, it's hard to rank rate anthologies.
Yes, very hard. I thought they did a really good job of that though, and I'm excited. Did you see Nicola Scott's cover?
Oh, the Batman lineup, yeah.
Which is the same as a Superman cover for action, but just Batman
instead. She said, obviously, that there's going to be no Sensation Comics 1000, but she's doing a Wonder Woman one just for fun anyway.
Oh, that's nice.
So I'm looking forward to seeing her post that somewhere.
They should save that for because Wonder Woman hit 800 like a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. If we're double shipping for a while, it'll hit 900 in a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah, but it won't be called 900, will it?
Who knows? Maybe by then we'll be on legacy number.
No.
Who knows? Do the dual number like Marvel. I actually kind of like having the legacy number on the cover.
Just pick one. If you go back, fine, but I hate going back. Oh, look, any chance as an anniversary issue, any excuse.
That's why you just do it now. You just do it now when it's on like 7/21.
Yeah, no. They've got a number now. We're on 63. Just keep going.
It's not actually 7/21. I just pulled that out of my ass. I'd have to check. I do keep track though. I've got a database. I keep track.
Yeah, I have a database of things as well. I don't bother with legacy numbers.
I like the legacy numbers. They make me feel warm and fuzzy inside. Anyway, let's move on to Action Comics 1007. Brian Michael Bendis writing, of course, Steve Epting on the art. Does that hurt, Connor?
A little bit. Give Epting something else, please, that I would like to read. That would be appreciated.
While he's doing the Leviathan event or whatever it's going to be after this, with also Bendis.
But that's also Bendis.
Yep. Well, this arc's called Leviathan Rising, so this is clearly building up to it. This is the build up to that story. We actually, funny enough, this is the first issue that didn't start with a desk. That was just the first arc, seemingly. But it does start with a kind of similar thing where it's like Jimmy's like bag of stuff and his tablets out, and there's a lot of stuff on the notifications. It's it's like Jess chilling, re-chirped your photo. It's a Twitter knockoff, obviously. Perry demanding photos and some other things going on. But yeah, so Perry's actually with a girl, and he's kind of investigating things. He's in Seattle, and she's all like, keep an open mind about this, and she takes him into this place, and he's wondering, okay, what the hell is this going to be? And she's like, just smart guy, keep an open mind. This will be worth the wait. And she kisses him before they go in, and then he goes in, and do you know what it is? It's a meeting for Cobra. She's trying to indoctrinate Jimmy into Cobra. And the Cobra guy, what was the commander's name? I can't see it. Doesn't matter. Anyway, but she kisses him again, and he's like, "No, this is kind of crazy. They're a bunch of snake people." Obviously not literally, but that's kind of what Jimmy says. And they chase him around because she eventually just turns around and says, "Okay, fine. In that case, you're a traitor. Everyone get him." And they go. And then as he's running from the building, there's an explosion in the building. This blue explosion of light. And Jimmy's like blasted back and knocked back. And there's a big crater where the building once was. It's a gorgeous page. There's a full page spread of him looking down at this crater with his phone. It's good stuff. No surprising. Epting's art's fantastic. I mean,
yeah. I'm not gonna say anything bad about Epting.
And Jimmy wakes up in Perry's couch. This actually kind of overlaps with one of the issues we had before. If you may not remember this because you don't really read it, but there was a scene where Jimmy was talking to Clark, and Clark noticed Good leaving, and he followed her, and he kind of says to Jimmy, "Hold that thought, Jimmy. I need to go." It kind of overlaps, even though the dialogue's not exactly the same because there's no mention of Talia yet. But I'm thinking we're just seeing like a different portion of it. But it ends with Clark saying, "Hey, hold that thought. I need to go." But unless it's meant to be that almost the same scene happened again. But to me, it looked more like it was the same scene, and it was following Good out the building. But so here's a big thing that happens in the middle. Lois meets with General Lane, her father,
All right,
and tells him Clark is Superman.
Well, I'm not saying no. See, this is why I hate that Matt's not here, because I felt obliged to have a reaction.
Yes.
And I don't want to do that having not read it because it's not really fair.
It's not fair, no.
But
I'm pausing to give my voice a rest for a second, just while you.
Yeah, but I have to react.
Yeah. So she's basically, I don't want to lie to you, and I should have told you this a long time ago, and like, basically says, yeah, Superman's the father of your grandchild, and I'm in love with Superman. I always have been. And we've not had a great relationship, and I should have always told you that. And he kind of listens and just kind of questions it, and then he says, "Then Lois, is this for real?" And she's like, "Yes." And we just have this silent page of him just turning his back and walking away, and she's got tears in her eyes.
Is there any evidence that she's kind of spoke to Clark about this, that she's gonna tell him?
I don't think she says anything that would imply that. She might have, though. There's nothing to necessarily suggest that she didn't either.
No, because
Yeah.
that's the thing. Because if Clark's okay with it, then fine. If this is something that she's just decided to tell, it's kind of a dick move. Not really her secret to tell.
I mean, it depends. Well, I guess we'll maybe see a scene of like her telling him how it went, and we'll find out if he knew about this first, or if this was something that she kind of made the choice to do because she had to, or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's a well done scene. It's kind of sad at the end when he turns around, because there's not been a whole lot of Superman at this point. But then we turn the page and Superman's there, and he hears someone screaming. And who is it but Amanda Waller's falling out the sky? And he catches Amanda Waller. And, she's all like, I'm the leader of Task Force X. No one should know I'm here. What's going on? And then he goes up to the building to see what's happening. And the same blue explosion, this orb-like explosion that happened at Cobra, has now happened at the headquarters for Task Force X, for Suicide Squad. Well, I say headquarters. I don't think it's where all the prisoners are, necessarily. But it's a building Metropolis. And Superman saves people. He's grabbing people who are in the building nearby and bringing them down. And the cliffhanger here is just that Amanda's disappeared when he gets back to the street level. But clearly, this story is called Leviathan Rising. We're building to Leviathan, and if we're going to assume that Leviathan is Leviathan led by Talia al Ghul, and given that she's kind of getting things ready in Silencer, which we've been reading, we'll talk about that later. This seems to be Leviathan trying to take out other organizations that they see as a threat or competition.
Yeah, I mean, not to spoil too much from Silencer, but it's there's some indication in that it's she maybe Talia as Leviathan wants to replace the League.
Yeah, she's making plays. And my especially when we get, because at first it was just Cobra. I was like, okay, what's going on? What's this explosion? When it happened again at the end for Task Force X, I went, oh, I think this is Leviathan. This is them clearing out every organization they don't like existing, which then makes me question who's next. Who do they go after next?
Sure.
And I love that he probably got approval to get rid of Cobra, at least for the meantime. I'm sure Cobra still exists to some extent, but.
Yeah, they'll just be, it wasn't all a Cobra.
Yeah, but I like that he's probably, okay, can people not use Cobra for like 2 years just so that this has some weight to it? And I'm sure they're like, yeah, Cobra can be killed off.
It's hard to swallow with Suicide Squad.
Well, that's the thing, it's not the Suicide Squad themselves, I don't think. Although, to be fair, Suicide Squad did just end.
Did it?
Yeah, I think issue 50 was the last one.
I'll take your word on it.
I'm sure that just ended, yeah.
I mean, I don't pay any attention to the book, so it may well have done.
So if that ended right before this, then honestly, they can have no Suicide Squad for a while until they relaunch it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
In like 2 years at the latest.
Well, when the new movie's coming out, which looks like it's maybe going to be directed by James Gunn, more so than it was before. So, yeah. Do you know what's weird? We're getting a Matt Reeves Batman movie that's going to be more separate from the other stuff because it's not going to be Affleck anymore. That's official. We might have James Gunn directing Suicide Squad 2 that same year.
Which isn't going to be Suicide Squad 2, it's going to be Suicide Squad.
Something, yeah. Suddenly 2021's looking quite good for DC movies. There's like potential in these projects.
Yeah.
Matt Reeves did Dawn of the Apes and War of the Apes, and those are two of the best big budget emotional blockbusters that I've ever seen. I have faith in Matt Reeves.
Yes, I still don't have faith in Warner's inability to meddle.
That's true. No, I can agree with that, but I have faith in Matt Reeves.
Yeah, as a filmmaker, absolutely.
I think he's arguably the best filmmaker they've hired for any of their movies. Based on my experience of what others have done, because I've never seen who the Birds of Prey director, like what she's done before, but like he's definitely better than Snyder, and I like James Wan in horror movies, but I think Matt Reeves is a better director than James Wan.
I would agree with that.
And obviously I like Patty Jenkins, but I've liked more of Matt Reeves' movies more than I like of hers. So
yeah,
I think he's the most and then James Gunn I also like a lot. So potential is there. It's ripe. Interesting though that the Flash movie never got announced for that year, when that was supposed to be shooting in 2020 for 2021. That Flash movie is still just lingering in like the abyss.
It's not happening. We're never seeing Ezra Miller's Flash again.
I'll agree with that. I think we'll get a Flash movie at some point. I don't think it'll be Ezra Miller.
Yeah, and so this Flash movie isn't happening. Yeah. A Flash movie will happen eventually. By
the time it happens, Ezra Miller will be too old. He'll have a walking stick and I'll be, oh well, they have to recast. Anyway, I went off track there. Aye, so I was still in action, wasn't I? Yes. So Cobra, at least a section of Cobra is taken out, and then a headquarters of Task Force X, or at least where Amanda Waller hangs out in Metropolis, is taken out. So something's making moves, and that's pretty cool. And the art was fantastic. And the scene with Lois and her dad was pretty emotional. And yes, if this was without Clark's permission, it's a little bit of a dick move, but I kind of understand it if she did. Like, I get it. I get why she wants to do this. But I definitely like that Lois is getting her own plots and getting her own things to do in the book.
It is one of those things that inherently actually makes me like Lois a little bit less, though, if she did just do it without Clark's permission.
Like I said, we don't know that. But
that's why I said if.
But if she did, it doesn't make me like her less. I agree, it's kind of a dick move, but it's a kind of sympathetic one. Because her motivations for this is that she doesn't want to lie to her father anymore. That she wants to try and mend that relationship. It's like the motivation there is sympathetic enough that it's not like, oh, Lois is horrible because she betrayed Clark's trust.
I don't know.
Oh yeah, Bendis wrote it, so you just have to.
No.
No. That's not.
I'm not having this. I'm not having this. This has got nothing to do with Bendis.
You say that. Look, let's just move on. I'll rate the book, and we can move on with our lives. I will happily give this. Actually, no, I'll do match rating first because save the best for last, obviously. Matt gave this a 9 out of 10. So he certainly did not have that much of a problem with it. He was into it because he gave it a 9. I think I will go slightly lower at an 8.5. I liked it a lot. I'm liking the plot that it's building, and I'm excited about this. And I'm excited that obviously we didn't clean up the other plot first as well. Like the secret mafia and Red Cloud are still a thing. Like this is an ongoing thing. That was just our introductory arc, really. And now we'll get more stuff to go. So, Action Comics 1007, very good. Bendis' run is popping, as it were. But that will take us on to Wonder Woman 63, G. Willow Wilson writing with Emanuela Lupacchino on the art.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, this issue focuses on some of the god creatures that are now stranded on Earth.
I mean, I just call them mythical creatures. Okay. They're not gods themselves.
Fair. That's fair distinction. But yeah, mythical creatures. It's basically following... Wonder Woman's in a couple of scenes, but it's mainly following these creatures and basically how they're reacting to being here. And they're kind of like going through immigration or like a refugee system to try and integrate into society a little bit. And it all kind of... they fly out the window early on, and Wonder Woman has to come in, like, sort of de-escalate the situation.
I laughed at you actually get we've made a huge mistake.
Yeah. Yeah. As he's hanging from the Pegasus, yes. This is pretty good. But they end up going to a restaurant, and the waiter's kind of putting up with them, although he's not necessarily enthusiastic about it. But he ends up trying to ask them to leave because a snobby couple are like the livestock in the restaurant, and they're getting all, basically racist for lack of a better word. And this younger waitress kind of comes over and sticks up for them and kind of, is friendly to them, and they take a liking to her very quickly. Yeah. And kind of defend her when she's under threat from a boss or from a nasty comment, actually, because I think that's why they fly at the rude staff, the rude wait staff to boot. That would never happen in the old days. You young people have no respect for the rules. It's disgusting. And then what's his face jumps up and says, "How dare you speak to her that way?" So no, that's good. The art's very expressive. I think what's impressive about this is that Lupacchino's doing very expressive emotions and reactions on faces, but they're not human faces. We've got a Minotaur and a Pegasus and what's the other one?
Satyr.
Yeah.
Or satire, depending on who you ask.
So they basically invite her to come out and help her, and she's like, "Yeah, okay, why not?" Basically, it's pretty much the thing. Yeah.
Wonder Woman brings along Ferdinand.
Yep, to try and sort of ease them in and say, hey, okay, so here's like a not a Minotaur because he's not from there, but but we've covered that before. But just some bonding to make them sort of feel like there is someone else like them who's here that can kind of help the journey. I like that we're building this little supporting cast because I don't expect that the next issue will focus on them again, but I think they'll be around and they'll be characters who pop in and out, and maybe every so often we'll get an issue focusing on them.
Yeah, I'm okay with that because this issue was kind of great. The whole thing of just them, a day in the life kind of thing of these three mythical creatures.
Yeah,
the banter between them was great.
Yeah, it was very delightful. They were very fun and entertaining.
When they're going out the window, and it's, oh, you're too slippery. I'm not slippery. I'm sleek. Just being offended by these little bits.
They immediately have chemistry. They immediately have like a repertoire between them that you kind of latch on to, and they're fun to be around. You're not sitting going, okay, when's Wonder Woman showing up? Because I really want to get to Wonder Woman. This is a Wonder Woman book. You're kind of into introducing these new characters. It doesn't come off as like, oh, we're doing this. Like, it works. So I'm excited to see, and actually them teaming up with this waitress to kind of like help them. I was getting some almost Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles vibes. Like this is their April.
I can see it.
That's what I was feeling. When we see them again, I'm expecting her to still be helping them, and like I can see that kind of setup almost existing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that's actually one of the influences here, or if it's just a coincidence, because that functionally is how it's working. But I'd be curious to ask.
Yeah, gonna need to learn the names at some point. I know the Mantle was Irene. I got that one.
Yeah, I didn't catch the names particularly. I'm sure they said all the names at some point.
I know Irene was said a few times because of the introductions.
Yeah.
I didn't catch the others though.
Yeah, we'll learn them in time. I'll make a point of learning them for next time they show up. I'll make a point of getting a wiki up or something to make a point of memorizing them. But so we actually have this little epilogue scene of Veronica Cale.
Yeah.
Bringing her back in. Wilson's not shying away from using her.
Should make Matt feel a little bit better.
Which should make Matt a little bit better. It might even mean we get to some Cheetah at some point, some Barbara Ann, because we know Matt loves that.
This seems to be following on from where Rucker left her. So I imagine Matt will feel a little bit better about this.
Yes, and basically Cale has Nemesis chained up in her house in the basement.
Yep.
And that's the cliffhanger. Yeah. So we're going into a Veronica Cale plot, and that's cool because Cale's a great villain. And I think Robinson did use it a little bit, but I mean, having opted out of that run, and then obviously the first arc of this didn't have her. It feels like, if we're counting Rucka as the last real time she had a lot of development, it's a nice return. So yeah, it's good. Yeah. And as always with these Wonder Woman issues, no Jason is the best part.
I mean, it's a wonderful side effect of that run just being wiped from existence for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, I'm sure it's
nothing from it had any meaning or relevance.
It didn't. No, I mean technically it's in continuity, but if you want to ignore it and pretend it never happened, at least so far, that's fine. Nothing's affecting it. It's cool. So, obviously the art's very good. I mean, I mentioned the expressiveness, but Lupacchino is wonderful.
Lupacchino's never not great. So,
it's a compliment actually to Germanico. That even though Lupacchino's fantastic, after a couple of years, I kind of miss Germanico from the last issue.
Oh, I wasn't.
I was a little bit. I think I really like Germanico's art. Like, and it's not that I dislike Lupacchino. Lupacchino's fantastic. It's just that I'm like, you know what, Germanico I never heard of before, like 2 or 3 issues ago, and I'm like, okay, Germanico's on the.
I like Germanico.
I
like Germanico a lot. However, easily my least favorite of the 3 artists we've had so far.
Oh, I wouldn't agree with that.
I mean, it's still it's a high bar. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
it's really like the
it's a good rotation of artists. I mean, I like all 3 artists. I know some people. Nord's actually the one that most people seem to be less thrilled about, and not just because Matt said that. I've seen other people on Twitter.
Absolutely baffling. Nord's my favorite of the 3, with Lupacchino close behind.
Oh, that surprises me. I thought Lupacchino would be your number 1.
No, I do love Lupacchino, but what can I say? Big on Nord.
I don't know who I'm putting second, but I'd probably put Germanico at number 1.
Fair enough.
But hey, high bars and all that. We have a good team of artists on Wonder Woman right now, which is good. So what you rate in the book?
8.5.
Matt gave it an 8.5. Look at that. I will give it an 8.5. There we go.
So very consistent of us.
Seemingly so. So that'll take us on then to the Justice League Annual, issue 1 by Scott Snyder and James Tynion IV co-writing, and Daniel Sampere on the art, who is the artist who a couple of times I've said, who's this? I've never heard of him, but his art's pretty good. I've done that like twice, so now I've remembered his name. I wasn't surprised when the art was pretty decent.
It was pretty good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I don't think it was like as standout good as the last couple of times I've noticed his name.
Hey, he's got like an extra 10 pages in this one. Yeah,
exactly. I was just about to say. But there are some phenomenal panels. I mean, it's at its worst, it's still good.
Yeah. I like him more than Chung.
I probably agree with that.
So yeah, take that for what it is. But anyway, so yeah, this is the annual, which is very much not a standalone thing. It's definitely the next part of the overall Justice League story.
Yeah, this is unskippable.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this now and you haven't read it, but you're reading Justice League for whatever reason, you skipped over the annual. I know some people do.
No, you need
go and
this.
Read it.
This will be in the trade at this point. Like, it comes after the last issue. It just
absolutely,
does.
Yeah.
And it's them. It's this big plan that Starman has to take the dead, or not even dead, but the Titans, dormant Titans. Yes, the Titans, the 3 that are survived because they killed one. But the 3 Titans that survived, along with Hawkgirl, whose wings that have obviously been infused with this source stuff, she's going to fill in for the 4th Titan, basically sacrificing herself to spend the rest of eternity as part of the source wall. And they're going out there, and the plan is to rebuild the wall, like fill in the hole, and essentially seal it off. And that'll stop Luthor from his plan of getting all the energies that built existence. And of course, eventually, though, the Legion of Doom show up, who are now in league with Brainiac, because Brainiac also wants Perpetua to be raised.
Because Brainiac's not dead.
Because he's not dead, and he's not forgotten what Amanda Waller did. he's pissed about it. Although, as mentioned in Action Comics, Leviathan might have gotten to her first, so he may not get his chance. But we have this plot. I like the plot quite a bit. I had fun with some of the epic grand scale stuff of this issue.
Yeah. This is as big as Justice League's been, and that's saying something.
Yes. I do have to mention a couple of complaints, though. A couple of
interesting.
These Snyder issues rearing their ugly heads, which is the exposition that is just dumped on us, explaining what they're doing. There was one moment in particular. What was it? I need to find it actually, but it was something that really bugged me in the exposition.
Okay, I will say I didn't feel it this time. I feel like this is going to sound almost weird, like a cop-out, but when a story gets to this scope and magnitude, I'm almost more willing to accept some exposition. Like, it kind of feels more in tone. It's when it's exposition of some other stuff that I really can be down on, one of the smaller things.
I feel like there's so many things that, like, when Snyder does these big stories, and obviously Tynion's implicit here as well, but I feel like Snyder probably, plotted it.
Yeah.
Is he'll just pull things out of his ass when they're relevant, and it always annoys me, because it feels like you're just pulling these things. And there's one moment, there was more stuff than this, but this is the one that I think stuck out to me.
Okay.
So this is when Brainiac and Luthor show up, and they're discussing their plans, their side of it. If I can take control, this is from Brainiac, if I can take control of Starman's mind even briefly, I may be able to channel an echo of the 3 missing energies. If the Totally Blast absorbs the blast in the field and achieves communion with her followers locked in the source wall, we should be able to reconstitute Perpetua's corporeal form. That's just this bulk explanation that means nothing to me. Why? Why is that going to work? There's no reason why it's going to work. It just is because reasons.
Yeah, sure.
It's explanations like that bug me. It's these almost to the point where I have to read the bubble twice just to really comprehend what he's just said, because it's just such bullshit pulled out of nowhere.
Fair enough. And it didn't bother me.
And Snyder does this a lot. He does this a lot where he'll just say, this thing will work, because someone will just explain why injecting himself with this energy will work, or being near something will work, or that this will rekindle this thing, just because, like, he does this a lot, and he does it so often that I can't ignore it. And every time he does it, I'm going to bring it up and complain about it, because every time it annoys me. I overall like what this issue does. I overall like what the plot is. I like Perpetua coming back. I like some of those big splash pages.
Also, I'm usually okay with this this problem that you're talking about when it's the sciencey things of things just working. That's the sort of exposition I'm okay with. I'm like, sure, it just works, fine. That's the story.
But there's just too much of it. Like, it's one thing when it's just one thing in an island of a good story. It's another thing when I feel like so much of what they're doing and how this works, that because all the stuff early on that's explaining the plan of, okay, so the Titans go back in the wall, the energy's flowing through Kendra, we can use her to sort of fill in the role of the last Titan, and all these things, like the emotion of it, you know, when Jean's like kissing her, and you know, when they kiss each other in her head, and he's like built her this like telepathic heaven that she can sort of be in to make this an easier mission for her, because she's essentially given up her life to do this. The emotion stuff's great. The emotion stuff is sweet. The emotion stuff works. What she's sacrificing is great. To the point where I felt like a lot of what this plan should have been set up in a more enjoyable way in previous issues. And then this issue should have been about the emotional kind of build-up to her making this final push. Obviously, it's interrupted, and that's okay, because, you know, stories, swerves. That's fine. Sure. But that's the meat for me that works. All of the babble coming out of Starman's mouth, the babble coming out of Brainiac's mouth, it just is there to quickly explain why things are happening. Just feels like you're telling me why things are happening as they're happening, instead of setting up the rules and then having me wowed by the execution. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I will say though, I was far more into the Starman. So I mean, the Brainiac stuff was. I'm not like, oh, this is fantastic. Yeah, I didn't have a problem with it. It was fine. The Starman stuff, I was actually actively into. It felt like, okay, here's the. It kind of felt like it felt like a sequence in a heist movie where, you know, where they go, all right, here's the plan, and you have the montage going over of them doing it. That's what that sequence felt like to me, and I was quite into that.
I think if all the things he was talking about were easier to comprehend, but everything kind of has to be explained completely, if that makes sense.
Sure. Because
they're all these high concept things where in a heist movie, like, when they start explaining their plans, for the most part, it's fairly comprehensible ideas that we understand how security systems work. We understand to at least a degree where when they start talking about how they're going to like get past them, it's like, okay, I kind of understand what they're doing here, right? This is all completely made up, right? It's all made up. And because of that, I feel like you have to like establish what some of the rules are, and I think that's my problem with Snyder's writing sometimes when he's doing these big epic things, is that there is no rules. It feels like he's just making up stuff as he goes along. And of course you're going to say, but stories are written that way. Well, they are to a point, but you still plan and execute. You plant your seeds and then use them later and build the story out of them. They're written as they go along to a point, but you still have an ending in mind, right? You still have here's what I have to set up for this to pay off. Snyder sometimes, I feel, just pulls things as he's going. It's like he doesn't think about what the reason is beforehand. And I'm sure he actually does. I'm sure in his head this all makes sense. But he doesn't necessarily give them enough time for the ideas to resonate and like sit there, so that when he actually uses them later, I'm like, okay, this is what's coming into play now. Instead, it's just like, here's a lot of explanation right as something's happening to explain why this extreme thing is happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think it can bother me at times. Here it really didn't, though, because you know, it's okay, this is happening now. It's like, here's the boardroom meeting, like, okay, this is the plan. This is what things are going down.
Guess,
I don't know.
I guess the reason why I'm ranting about this so much in this issue is because overall I liked where it went, and I like scenes in the issue, but the issues, the problems that I'm talking about, the pages where those were problems, I found those pages a chore to read, and they were kind of dragging me out of the story, and that's probably about half the book. Not necessarily the first half entirely, because it kind of, you know, because sometimes when it flashed back to a scene between like Kendra and someone, I was like, okay, I'm kind of into this flashing back and kind of. Because that was a bit more character focused, and like her making this choice and agreeing to do it. You know, the scene in her head I liked. When Brainiac showed up, I liked the splash of him showing up. But then him actually talking to Lex about what the plan was, like, you know, again, a lot of techno babble just to explain why we're doing this thing. The actual results, the idea at the end, the Green Lantern Corps and all the other races, like the Thanagarians. The fact that, like, hey, Earth's going to be kind of hated because you've just put the multiverse on a clock, because the multiverse is going to die now, because the source wall has exploded.
Yeah.
And now the multiverse is dying, and everyone's going to basically blame Earth, because it's mostly your Earth heroes that arranged all this. And because of that, you better just go back there and keep quiet, because we're not going to put up with you.
Yeah. No, I like where this ended.
Yeah.
I was obviously a lot more into this issue than you were, because I thought this flowed in so easily. I know this was one of the last things you read before we started. You were like, it's going to take me a while, because Justice League. And I was like, oh man, we're gonna have words because this went in so quick for me.
Like, there's stuff in here I like, but it dragged. Because this is the thing, the Flash annual, which we'll be talking about soon. I never noticed the extra pages. That flew in for me.
Okay.
I got to the end of that and I was like, oh, was that even extra pages for an annual? I don't think it was. And it was, obviously, because DC annuals always are. This one, I felt it. I felt every extra page.
I felt extra pages in a good way. Like, I felt like, oh, this is a bigger story, right? Does that make sense? I felt like, oh, I'm getting more of this. And so, but it still flowed in. Yeah. So yes, it took me longer to read than a regular issue, but it felt like it took me on par with, okay, you know, the percentage of time that it would have taken extra. Like, it didn't feel like it was longer than it should have been.
I think sometimes Snyder just, like, he's obsessed with doing something bigger every time than he did last, right? He's always like, oh, it's going to be the craziest thing ever. And I almost wish that he didn't, because I think Snyder's better when he doesn't go crazy. I think a smaller focused story is when I like Snyder the most.
I get that, especially in regards to his Batman.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a lot more forgiving of it in Justice League.
That's fair. That's not.
Of the ideology of go big, like go bigger. Like I'm a lot more forgiving of that in terms of, okay, this is your flagship book to go big in.
I guess ultimately what it comes down to is that instead of being excited at the reveals at the end because Perpetua has shown up and the Doom, you know, just as the League of Doom rather, they have done this and Perpetua's shown up. Instead of being excited because I feel like the breadcrumbs are coming together, I just feel like I got a paragraph explaining why it's happening right before, and then it happens. So I like the outcome, but ultimately I didn't really enjoy the actual build up to it right before because it was just, here's why this is happening.
Fair enough. Obviously, there's no point in debating this any further because it's coming down to taste. One of the things that mildly annoyed me about this issue is that so Kyle's there,
as is Megan.
No, Kyle specifically because he went through the source wall and came back, and that was the whole White Lantern thing. Should we not mention that?
Yeah, I never really bring that up.
Like it feels really like at first when I saw Kyle, I was like, oh, I guess they brought him along for his expertise because he's been on the other side, and then no, nothing.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. That never stuck out to me as much as the Rain did, but I mean that's fair. I didn't think it was we didn't really see any of the other Titans though.
Yeah, I guess they're just not much use.
I mean, we saw Natasha on a screen at one point, but I was like, where was the other Titans? I guess it was just the Space Titans, you know, the ones who are relevant in space, which is, you know, McGann and Kyle.
I mean, there's a thing from Starman saying, oh, you're working with Steel and the Titans to go through the archive data.
Okay, so
they're doing stuff back on Earth.
They're on desk duty. Okay.
Yeah. Well, someone's got to be in there.
I suppose. It's kind of bittersweet because it's like, oh, the Titans are incorporating into the main plot of Justice League. That's cool. It makes them feel more important. Oh wait, their book's already cancelled. Oh well.
Yeah. It's interesting because we get the page at the end with all the various things reacting, and it's like, okay, this is the new Justice line reacting to it, and a few extra bits. So obviously we see Darkseid in the Ghost Sector.
Which to be fair, what happens in this book does tie in nicely to what he's doing in this week's issue of Odyssey.
Yeah, I'm glad I read that first because then I got to this panel and went, oh, and he's like, oh, now we can begin, and I'm like, oh, okay, I know what he's talking about.
Yeah, because I read that first as well, and I thought his reaction played very well in this, having read Odyssey first.
Yeah, I read the annuals last because traditionally they would have been the week 5 and everything else would have been last week.
That's true, yeah.
So I intentionally read those last.
I wouldn't have necessarily always read Justice League last, but I intentionally read Flash Annual after the Flash because I assumed that came next. And it actually does. Like, it follows on from the end of that.
Yeah. But obviously we also have, on Earth, we see Swamp Thing and Detective Chimp.
Yeah.
So that covers those two books. The Titans are kind of around. The other ones were a bit more interesting. I thought it was interesting to show Adam Strange for New Genesis, given that we have a bunch of new gods in the rest of this book.
Yeah, I guess because he's there and they're not, because they're all...
Yeah.
They're all actually at the situation. Let's actually cover what happens, what they say in this page. New Genesis and Apocalypse are gone. Darkseid, as we know from Odyssey, which we'll talk about later, is planning on building a new Apocalypse. Swamp Thing feels something, like all nature screaming. And then the team at the bottom, the House of Heroes there, which is
the multiversal team.
Yeah, that's is that Earth 9 Superman? Is that the right number?
I want to say 9, yeah.
I think it's 9. Yeah, Will Morrison created
Yeah.
for Action. So they're like, yeah, things are ending, and then we get the reveal that the multiverse is dying, and it's on a timer.
Interesting to see the Spectre in heaven there as well. Like, feel like not seen him in a while.
We have not. Also, so Perpetua does this. She explodes the source ball, but then she kind of like passes out from all that energy. So she's kind of in cryosleep now, or in containment.
Yeah.
Until she gets back up. But one of the interesting things that someone says is like, well, now we have to consider the possibility that whoever imprisoned her is going to show up. And I'm like, okay, so now we have an even bigger, more powerful entity.
Yeah. But it felt like a natural tease.
It felt like a natural tease, yeah. I guess my whole eye-rolling moment of it is like, okay, it makes sense that this entity exists because she did get imprisoned there, so we kind of have to like, okay, so if she's this powerful, who put her there?
You're gonna go, oh, but it's bigger again.
But it's bigger again, yeah, and it kind of made me go.
It is, but it makes sense.
Yeah, I really hope whatever's after, like, we deal with this multiverse dying plot, is not the multiverse is at stake again.
It's fine. We have the Jaro issue coming up.
It's the same problem with it's always the world that's going to be destroyed in superhero movies. I'm like, okay, can we do something more personal, please?
Sure.
Can we please do that?
It doesn't bother me as much in comics in the sense that because I can go and read a different book and get the much more personal book, like in Flash, right, or Wonder Woman, both are much more personal focused right now. I'm like, okay, Justly, yeah, you're the big multiversal threat, fine. Like,
I think it bugs me because it's like it's essentially right after Drowned Earth. Obviously, we had the Thanagar stuff, but that was just building to this. That was just setting up this.
Yeah.
It was like Drowned Earth. Everyone on Earth becomes a fish, and then they get turned back. No one's ever going to mention it again. And then 3 issues later, the multiverse is dying. Everyone's screwed. And it's obviously not going to die. We're going to fix this because of course we are.
Yeah. But this one feels like it might actually have some weight to it comparatively, especially compared to Drowned Earth.
Yeah. It's just like, yeah, but I mean, this is happening like. I mean, obviously this is a comics problem, but for some reason Snyder seems to like really like make it shine, like where he'll do these big stories after big stories after big stories, and it bugged me with his Batman run. I got really sick of it with his Batman run.
Yeah, I know. I have heard him speak about this, and because people have asked him, and he said the reason why is he never knows how much longer he has left on a book, because the way the contracts works are extensions by this many issues, that many issues. So he's always like, if I've only got one more story to tell, what's it going to be? Which is why he always ends up going bigger, because it's like, okay, if this is the last story. So I mean, I can understand his reasoning in his head at least.
It still bugs me. I think it hurts my enjoyment of the book a bit too. I just always go bigger and bigger, and
no, fair enough. Like I said, we got Jaro coming up. We're good.
I know. I mean, I don't want to sound too negative because I did like a lot of what this sets up. I liked a lot of the moments in this. I like the Kendra Jean stuff. I like the reactions. I like the fact that Earth is kind of seen as this, like, oh, they're on the bad books because they kind of killed everyone.
Yeah.
Like, that stuff I like. I did find some of this a shorty read. And
fair enough.
It was bugging me because I think at this point it bugs me even more because I think over the course of reading a lot of Snyder work, I have diagnosed the problem. So now when it pops up, I'm like, oh, here he goes. It's one of those pages. And sometimes it's one of those whole issues. Like, there's some issues that are like that with him.
Yeah.
And it bugs me.
It bothers me when it's a whole issue, for sure.
And because some people love the mythology stuff that he's building, and I love mythology building stuff too, but it has to be done in a way where I'm intrigued by the ideas, and I feel like he just dumps so much on you, and it's just explanations where,
I'm definitely intrigued. Even with the explanations just here, I'm like, okay, I'm into it.
Yeah, it may as well be that issue of Superman with the reading off the plaques. It almost feels like that at times when he's giving exposition.
Oh, it never feels like that bad to me.
But that's what it is. Hey, what did Matt give it? Matt gave the Justice League Annual a 7.5. So
it's kind of low for Matt. He must have felt some problems.
It's a shame he's not here. I'd like to talk. I'll maybe bring it up next week when he's back and get his take on it a little bit. What are you giving it?
I'm giving it a 9. I loved it.
6.5.
All right.
I can't quite call it good. There was too many problems in the writing for me, and how the exposition just dumped on me at points for me to give it any higher. But the art was pretty good. I liked a lot of what it set up, so it's almost good.
Yeah.
There's not enough there for me. So I have to be the grumpy one on that, apparently. But we'll move on then to what's next, which is The Flash, issue 63. Joshua Williamson writing, Minkyu Jung on the art. So this is kind of
nice change of pace in terms of the art.
Sure, you like the art?
Yeah, I'm a fan of Jung.
Yeah, I like Jung as well. Because I think the Flash book had some really good artists for a long time, and it's been kind of, it's not that Deuce and Sandoval and whoever's been bad. It's just that some of them have not been right for the Flash, and some of them have not been as exciting as some of the other artists on the book.
Yeah, it's felt in a bit of a holding pan when it's come to artists.
Probably because they're saving the better artists to get a lead on the bigger stories that are coming up.
Hopefully.
I would imagine.
I mean, I think for me this was the best art we've had on Flash in a while.
Yeah, since Flash War maybe, or since
probably,
or maybe since the stuff right after Flash War. I can't remember who was on
right after that. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the conclusion of Force Quest, and we got Gemini siphoning powers off of both Flash and what's his face? I forgot his name.
Psych.
There you go.
Which I only remember because he went psych.
That's right. You're right. Iris actually ends up saving them a little bit. She kind of tackles Man Gemini.
We don't actually know their individual names.
I don't know. The woman does say his name because when he dies later, she's like, "Oh, my beloved so and so."
She's called Belladonna.
Bella, there you go. So Barry remembers, with all these previous speedsters before, and which is kind of a nice setup because obviously at the end he's going to find out about Wally. It's going to tie into that moment in Heroes in Crisis where he found out. So it's kind of nice that they reminded you in The Flash that he's got this connection to Wally. Not that anyone reading The Flash, I think, forgets that. It's just, you set it up so that it's in your head again.
Yeah.
So, that's what it is. Flash and Psyche fight back. Psyche goes too far and outright kills the dude, which obviously Barry's not on board with, and has to deal with his anger.
She shouts out Santiago, so
there you go.
That's probably his name.
But the big thing here is we find out that the Gorilla City actually kept a secret from Barry about the forces,
which we knew anyway. Remember, because when he left, we saw the gorillas going, "Oh, maybe we should have told him."
That's true. But we find out what it was now. What the secret is,
yes,
is that the forces were at war because one force has to take control, so they'll be in charge of what we're calling the Forever Force. Not a fan of the title
naming.
Yeah, I'm not big on the name. But the idea that the forces were always at war, and that's why we only ever knew the Speed Force, is because the Speed Force has been in power since forever.
Yeah, imprison the others. And then, the idea that the gorillas didn't tell him because they thought if he didn't know, he'd just do what Barry does best and, go on their good side, be a hero and try and make them work together.
But I like that explanation. That's why we didn't know about the others. Is that they've been, since until the Source Wall and Flash War and all that, they've all been kept under wraps because only one could be dominant, and this is actually kind of a problem that they're all coming back. So I like that. They go back to Gorilla City and see that everyone's kind of, dead. And then we get the tease of who did it, actually. Cause obviously, Gemini killed some of the remaining apes, but the original death group that we saw...
It was good old Hunter.
Good old Hunter Zolomon, who's up to no good. So that's a great tease, of course. Yeah. We also see Gemini's in Arkham. Sorry, what was something raised? Belladonna. Belladonna specifically is in Arkham.
Yes,
she's went crazy.
But she's convinced that the other one's he's living in her head.
And then we also, at the start of the book, we also continued the Commander Cold and Detective Burns. They're in the trickster-looking playhouse.
Yeah, I thought this scene was a little off in that it was just one page at the start, and it felt a bit...
Joe, it's funny, I never even thought about it because when I read it, I thought it was fine because I assumed it was coming back later. It wasn't really until we started talking about it here that I went, oh wait, that never came back.
It was as soon as I finished the book, I was like, was that it? Like, it was just the one page because it didn't even bookend it, did it?
Yeah, it was kind of weird. I mean, I've been enjoying that little subplot, but it's kind of weird in this issue.
I feel like it's a fine page, but put it in the next issue or whenever the issue to this is relevant.
Yeah, I did kind of like that Barry, as soon as he found out Zolomon was involved, he just sped Iris back home, even though he promised her not to.
Sure.
I kind of no, Zolomon's name get brought up. Okay, that's it. No. And then that's when Booster Gold shows up from Heroes in Crisis, and we get the Wally, and he sees the body lying there. Obviously, for a long time I was saying that only Roy's been addressed in other books. It turns out Flash's arc just was set before Heroes in Crisis.
Yeah.
and we're doing it now. It's still kind of weird though how it was never mentioned in the other books when it was like Roy's funeral. No one ever mentioned that Wally was also dead.
That is a bit weird, but we're addressing it now
because they were found at the same time. It's really strange not to bring, because they were both Titans as well. It's not even like it would be different people at the funeral.
Yeah, it is kind of weird.
So,
but I mean,
I still sense some fishiness with this, but
he is dead. At least this version
for
of Wally.
now.
Yeah,
for now.
Like we said, shenanigans.
Yeah, I actually thought this was probably one of the better issues of this arc, just because it was the final conflict, so it was better paced. I thought it was just kind of, here's the action, here's some big reveals, here's some stuff afterwards that's quite heavy. The Zoom reveal in particular was quite a big deal, I thought.
Yeah, it was easily my favourite issue of the arc, and not entirely just because it was over, because I've not been as hot on this arc.
I mean, I think it's been weaker than some of the previous ones, but I mean, I wasn't as down on it as you were.
No, that's fair, but I was really not feeling all the Gemini stuff, and that stuff was still the weakest. Like, so that first half of this issue was not amazing for me, but once we got past that, the rest of it was pretty good.
So, just quickly then, what are you giving this? We can move like the annual kind of.
Yeah, I'll give it a 7, because like I said, the first half was still just kind of cleaning up the rest of the arc.
Yeah, Matt gave it a 7 as well. I think I will also go with a 7. I think it's a good issue. I kind of like the big reveals. But it's kind of overshadowed this week, though, because the Flash Annual Issue 2 came out, which was also Joshua Williamson writing, and Scott Kolins was on the art. And this falls on because... It falls on from two things. It falls on from the last issue of Flash and, Barry's discovery of Wally. But it also falls on from Flash 50 because Impulse, Bart Allen, that's who we start the book with.
Yes, in a less than flattering first panel.
First panel's a bit weird. That said, the bottom panel on that page I really like. Like when it's him.
Yeah, no, I like that one as well.
Yeah, that's really good. Because he's basically looking for Barry, and he's like, "Where are you?" So what's kind of weird then is this implies that even though we got that page at the end of 50 with him coming out of Speed Force, he didn't actually come out of Speed Force until now. Because this ties in directly to the timeline that it's Heroes in Crisis is going on.
Yeah.
It basically means they put that page in Flash 50 because it was the 50th issue, but really we weren't doing Bart until now.
Yeah,
till this month. Because obviously it ends with him going off saying, "Well, I'll go find my friends," because all the Flash stuff's quite weird right now. So obviously that leads into Young Justice.
Which means we probably won't get him back in the Flash book till at least after the first arc of Young Justice.
I imagine so, or at least it'll be set after Young Justice.
Yeah.
So Barry runs off. He speeds off into the Speed Force, and he's like, "You have to be in here, Barry. Where are you? Where are you?"
Wally.
Sorry, yeah, where are you, Wally? Sorry, you know what I meant. It makes sense.
Yeah, I know.
And he's got tears in his eyes. He's screaming Wally, and that's when Godspeed shows up, and he's like, "You're in here. Why are you in here, Godspeed?" And it's like, okay, all right. So Godspeed ends up fighting Barry for a fair bit, and basically Godspeed, it turns out, is working for someone.
Yeah.
He does make a point of like giving his condolences about Wally before he speeds off at the end. But he does, run off, and we find out that. And there's a lot of stuff in between, of course. He ends up like fighting Mina Wallace and Avery.
Yeah.
Or around. They're visiting Mina in Iron Heights, and it kind of leads to like them being involved in the fight.
What's Avery's code name? Does she have one?
She doesn't really have one. It's just called Avery.
She was just the Justice League China Flash, right?
Yeah, well, I mean that's true for all of them, because like it was New Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and Flash.
Yeah. So is she just China Flash?
Well, Chinese Flash, I think, would be the more appropriate term.
Whatever.
You wouldn't say the America Flash; you'd say the American Flash.
I don't know. I think the former has a nice ring to it. Stands out.
Connor being silly again. So yeah. So that's I mean all this fighting stuff's pretty good. Wallace and Avery kind of jump in and obviously help out when all's going chaotic. But he eventually speeds up, even though, because he's actually punched the shit out of Godspeed. Like, his mask is all torn to shreds and he's got bruises and stuff.
Yeah. Just a thing on the art. The bolt panels on Godspeed's helmet are a lot more pronounced panels than I remember them being. Like when you look at them over his cheek, they kind of physically stick out quite a lot. Yeah. Maybe this is me misremembering, or maybe it was just Giandomenico drew it differently.
I think he just drew it differently. I think it's just a different artist thing. I don't think it's like a redesign or anything like that.
That's fair.
Yeah, because do you know what they almost look like, actually? They look like mutton chops. They look like Wolverine mutton chops.
They just go up a bit too far. The Wolverine mutton chops that go up into Batman ears.
Yes.
And it looked a bit weird to me in this issue, and I don't remember his design ever looking like that. Not them looking like that distinctly like stuck on panels like on the side.
Yeah. So after Godspeed runs away from Barry, Bart runs into him and like takes him down. And I think the most interesting thing here is whoever's talking to Godspeed says, "You're not ready for this speedster or that speedster. Enter the Speed Force now." Like he's like, "No, you're not ready for Bart. Run." So I think that's very interesting. I mean, was it just me? The impression I was getting from who this is probably Prometheus.
Probably. I admit my initial first thought was, wait, that's a blue outline.
Oh, you were thinking Manhattan. I thought that too.
Yeah, and obviously it's not.
Yeah,
makes that clear.
When it got to the later on, I didn't think that. But so Barry talks to Wallace and tries to like say, maybe you should come back now. Maybe it's time you come home. And Wallace, now it's funny because while I like that he's pointing out that Barry's kind of doing the same thing again, my problem here is that when he says, "Oh, you've not even told Iris about Wally yet," because Godspeed shouts it out, so they find out, and Barry's like, "Oh, sorry."
He literally just found out.
Yeah, this is what I was thinking because he runs off to Iris and he says in his narration that I should have told her right away, and I'm like, but this says more or less right away. You just got interrupted by a fight with Godspeed. You went to find Wally first to prove that he was dead, and then you immediately get thrown into this fight. This is right after that fight. I don't think he actually held it for any time.
This feels like a weird timing issue in that we know it's been, like, to us it's been time since this reveal. So we're supposed to go, yeah, he's been holding on to this for months.
But he's not. He found for him it's maybe at most been 5 minutes.
Yeah, because it was literally he found out. He had a bit of a moment at Sanctuary, right?
Ran off, and at the Speed Force
ran off
to check if he's dead. Yeah, so
yeah.
So at this point, he's hoping he'll find him, and he won't have to tell Iris anything because he's going to find him alive.
Yeah, and he runs right into Godspeed, and then the rest of this issue ensues.
Yes, and he talks to Wallace because he's there at the time afterwards, and they find out.
Yeah. So Wallace is just being a shithead.
He's been a bit of a dick about this because he's not had time to go and tell her. And then the scene, so Barry goes to tell Iris,
and the narration of him condoning it, like being like, "Oh, I should have told her as soon as I found out," feels wrong.
Condemning it, you mean?
Yeah, I did. It's very late.
Yes, so Iris breaks down. She drops the plate. Or I think Kolins went a bit nuts with her hair in this. Her hair's like all the place. There's one part where she just yells out, "I know," where her hair's, she just throws her head back and her hair's up like like it's just sticking up. It kind of works for the moment though. The raw emotion kind of comes through it, like because it has this crazy kind of like she's beating on Barry's chest. She's kind of blaming him at first, and she's just kind of reacting emotionally. It's not really that she hates him or anything like that. The final 2-page spread of them just like on the floor hugging, I thought was very effective.
Yeah. All the writing's great. I'm not the biggest fan of Kolins' art, especially his facial work actually. So I didn't quite land as well as I'd have hoped, but I like the moment in general.
I think it's well paced. I think his face work's not the best, although I'm kind of nostalgic for it for a Flash book, bizarrely, just because he's done so much Flash.
I get that, but I'm looking at that top panel of Iris, being angry, and kill them. I'm like, I don't know, her whole mouth looks misproportioned.
And he's like, "You don't mean that." She's like, "I know." Like she's immediately, "No, yeah, I'm not turning into like a murdering person, like or murderer, as those are called." Hey, you said China Flash earlier, so you don't get to say shit.
Stand by that more.
So Bart at one point ran by Titan's tower and he couldn't find it. He says like, there was no Cassie, there was no Tim, there was no Connor. Like this is clearly a Bart that remembers pre New 52. This is a Bart that knows all this shit.
Yeah. Because then he goes to the Flash Museum and is like, right, okay, let's catch up on the history of this timeline.
Yeah, things have changed, and he even says that he could feel Wally in there. He even comments on his outfit. He's like, "Oh, this is a pretty cool costume, but that's not Wally. Like, I always liked Wally more than Barry. Wally was the one who was stuck, was trained me and was my big brother essentially when I came back from the future and blah 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 blah."
Yeah. Also, I just want to, as a criticism to the writing, never call your epilogues first epilogue and second epilogue.
Sure.
Don't do that. You have an epilogue and something else if you have to, but I don't know. Having two epilogues is kind of not great.
He says he can't find his family, so he's going to go and find his friends instead, basically. I mean, if he just comes back the next day, he'll find them. They were just gone because things were going on. But
well, yeah, I mean, we wouldn't have found Cassie and Connor there, though.
True. So obviously, I'm expecting him to, Bendis and Young Justice will probably give some of the, because it felt like in Young Justice like he'd already spoken to Tim like before that first issue. I'm thinking we're going to get that flashback in Young Justice.
I'll take your word for it.
But so that sets that up, and then the second epilogue is Godspeed. Whoever given this gauntlet is in the future, seemingly. And whoever he's talking to is like, oh yes, since I was freed from Iron Heights in the 25th century and have escaped here, I have watched the Flash family witness how destructive their actions are. So he's coming for them. He's very antagonistic against the Flash family.
I may have laughed a little bit at the final line.
Oh yeah, because it's no more speedsters, as in no more mutants.
Not even that. Because this is the Flash, I may have heard Chris Klein.
Oh no! It's not Cicada. Come on now.
It's not. No, I know it's not. But it's just it's just in my head. It's in the zeitgeist.
There will be no more speedsters.
I heard it like that before, just because of that line was in the last. The old man's must die was in the last episode. It's kind of on theme. I don't know. It kind of ruined no fault of this book. No fault of this. It's just my own head ruined it for me.
Also, did you get the impression that Godspeed's playing along with presumably Prometheus here, but he's not actually went evil yet? He's kind of doing this for some sort of better reason.
Yeah, because he's talking about, oh no, doing that didn't sit right with me. Better will be worth it. He still, when he said to Barry that he was trying to reform, he was trying to do good. I still believe him.
Yeah, because when he comes back, like Prometheus again, assuming that's who this is, because you only see him from the behind. Is that he's like, why did you give him condolences? And he's like, oh, I was just stalling for time or whatever he says. He has to justify it to him, and it kind of felt like he only went into the fight to try and like stop Barry from following what he was doing or whatever. It was just about playing the role for Prometheus' point of view, because he assumes correctly that Prometheus is watching and listening to all this.
Yeah.
So I'm intrigued where this is going. It just says to be continued throughout 2019 in the Flash. I like what it's done here. I think much like the last annual, which set up Flash War last year, I think this is, again, done a really good job of being like, hey, here's some exciting stuff. We're actually dealing with the fact that Wally's gone, and while I do think he'll be back, and I'll be pissed if he really is gone, because I don't think it was a fitting end for him, seeing how Iris reacts to it, seeing how Barry reacts to it, feels like a big deal. It feels like something we should see, and see how the emotion plays out with that. And Godspeed's actually a pretty interesting new character. I kind of like the addition of Godspeed. And
yeah, I've liked him throughout the run whenever he's popped up.
And I like what they're doing with him. I think I wasn't necessarily in love with him in the first arc per se, but I like the kind of anti-hero kind of ally that he kind of became with the kind of redemption in Iron Heights, and then what they're doing with him here, like kind of playing that thin line. Is he went evil? Is he doing something for noble reasons? Kind of thing. I like what they're doing with that.
Sure.
He's kind of Flash's Red Hood, although that feels like a disservice to call him that.
Yeah, see, I liked him 2 minutes ago.
That type of character can work, just not just in Todd.
Yeah.
Although people love him for some reason, but whatever.
Idiots.
Whatever. So that's the Flash annual. I think that overshadowed the regular issue. I think the regular issue was pretty solid though.
Yeah.
I think Flash in general had an exciting week in comics. So
yeah, definitely.
What are you giving the annual?
I'm giving it an 8. It would be higher if I liked the art more.
That's fair. Matt gave it an 8.5, so he quite dug it as well. I'll go with 8.5 as well. I think I won't go all the way to the 9, mainly because there's still an uneasiness about the circumstances of Wally's demise, which just kind of is sitting there in the back of your head as you're reading this.
Kind of ruining it a little bit.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
But everything with Bart I loved, everything with Godspeed I loved, the reactions I loved, Iris' scene I loved. This was solid Flash stuff. And then teasing villains. I'm more excited about Zoom being teased in the last regular issue than I am about the villain in this one, presumably it's Prometheus, but all the same, good stuff. So. All right, so I think we're out of the big hump of big books and into some of the smaller books that we can just kind of have some fun with. So next up, Batgirl issue 31, Mairghread Scott writing, Paul Pelletier on the art. Pelletier's art is starting to bug me a bit.
Really?
Some of his mouths are really bugging me. And it was I like this issue more than last issue. I was a bit more middling in the last issue. I think this issue took the overall plot we're doing with the mayor candidate and Bard and all that stuff, and I like what they did in this one with what was it, the Cormorants?
Yes, I know what you're trying to say.
The villain's name, yes, and his assassination attempts. I like the simple setup of this. I like Babs trying to deal with it, not being able to tell her, give them the intel that she knows, because obviously Barbara Gordon shouldn't have that intel. All that kind of stuff, and just the basic setup of like, okay, there's going to be an attempt on the candidate's life. She has to try and solve it. And I actually thought this issue got kind of dark with like how often do we see like superheroes get beat up so much that they're this bruised in the face. Especially,
it kind of looks like she's got a bit of a busted nose, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was a really brutal beating she took. And I think there is like an extra element to this because it's a female superhero, where I feel like they shy away from it. I don't think the male heroes get that often anyway either, but I feel like they shy away from it a little bit more with the female superheroes. So it really stuck out to me that, oh, this guy really beat the shit out of her.
Yeah, I know that there's some people, I imagine you could read it as, oh, it's going a bit further and it's almost gratuitous because it's a woman. But I would say I would like to see the men take a bit of a beating as well.
I'm all for every superhero getting bruised and bloody on a fairly regular basis.
Like no. It's a way of showing that maybe she's not, because Babs has never been the best fighter, right?
Maybe not like Superman, obviously, because he's Kryptonian and is Man of Steel.
Although he still tends to get a bit of a beating when he goes up against like Zod or something.
Yeah, or Darkseid or whatever.
Yeah.
The thing I said earlier as well, how some of the panels don't seem to know how to draw the logo on her chest on this new outfit. It just sticks out to me now.
I'll give you that as a problem.
So they're trying to play this whole Bard thing, like he might actually have better intentions despite what we saw. Oh, I was doing that to suss out what was going on and blah blah blah. I don't know if it played like that to me last time, but they're playing with it, and we'll see how it goes. So yeah, there's this party thing. This is where what's his face is going to attack. And Cormorant, there you go. And Babs is staking it out, and this is when she gets or basically gets beat the shit out of her, essentially. And
she does, but she gets a few good hits in herself.
Oh, she does. She absolutely does. And I think what makes it work as well is that the next day, and she's like all bruised and stuff. She's like, "Yeah, I can't really go into work today. I need to kind of hide this for a bit." She's kind of like, she has the right attitude about it. But we get to see a bit of what Cormorant's like. How he was in the military, but he got discharged for liking war a bit too much, as she puts it. He got discharged from more militant places because he's a bit of an alcoholic. So he's kind of just become this lone mercenary dude who does this kind of thing. But the twist here is that he also goes after Moore, the opposition. Yeah. The other politician who up until now she was kind of assuming was in some way behind this. And it turns out he's not. Like, whatever this Cormorant's doing is targeting both of them.
This also had one of my favourite lines of dialogue in this issue.
Oh, go on.
Moore's like, "Oh, don't hurt me. I'll do whatever you want." And he goes, "Oh, I know you will. I just don't like politicians." And just goes to slam whatever it is he's holding into him. That cracked me up.
Yeah. Also, I actually think the most brutal art in terms of, not in a bad way, the most brutal art in terms of Babsy's face being injured is when she's kneeling down to Moore.
And there's like a bulge under the eye.
Yeah, it's like, no, it's not even the eye. It's this well, I guess it kind of it's under her mask.
It's under the mask,
but it's on her lip. There's this big like swollen area, and I'm like, damn, that looks grotesque.
Yeah, it's proper come up in a bulge, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm like, geez.
But it looks disgusting in a really good way.
Yeah, she's taking a beating off this guy, which is good because it makes you want to see her kick his ass even more so.
Yeah, and it tells us, no, this guy's got training. He's a threat, right? He's not just some random chump on the street.
Yeah, so the candidate, is it Alejo, I think? Or
yes.
Something? Yeah, there you go. I thought I remembered it. I don't want to mispronounce it like an idiot, but I remembered it, it's fine. So she's like, "I'm going out to TV, I'm doing this speech, I'm going to denounce all this, And Bar's like, hey, this is too big for us. This guy's coming after you. You need police protection. She doesn't want police protection because she's been saying a lot of negative things about the police. So she's like, oh, I'm paying you. You and your men should be able to handle this. This is what you're here for. And then the cliffhanger, it's kind of a low-key cliffhanger. It's just kind of like them getting into the building and Cormorant's disguised as a maintenance worker or whoever. And he's got his gun with him. So it's just kind of this tease of like, okay, so we've been another suicide attempt. Or not suicide, sorry, you know what I mean? Murder attempt.
Assassination.
There you go, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
So, no, I like this one more.
Low-key cliffhanger, but the sort of cliffhanger I like in a comic in that, no, it can deliver on this.
Oh, sure. And no, I like this one more because the last one I was a little bit more mixed on. I thought this one capitalized on what it was doing. I felt the violence, I felt the threat, I feel the tease at the end. I like the... almost just the very strong action setups of, okay, we've got an event, we know someone's going to try something, Barbara has to be Batgirl and kind of defend the situation. And I thought all that stuff worked really well.
Yeah, so, and on top of that, it's still playing with the, her as Barbara Gordon as well, because she's supposed to be there as Barbara, but can't. Yeah, and the organizer for the volunteers doesn't like her very much because she shoehorns her way into this event. Well, Bard kind of just threw her in it.
Yeah, so he's being a dick, doesn't like her very much, but doesn't necessarily mean that he is evil scum.
No,
doesn't necessarily.
He could be, but no guarantee.
He could be, but there's no guarantee. Like I say, some of the mouths and stuff and the art is just kind of bugging me a little bit. It's not like the worst ever, but like I don't think Pelletier sticks out as being exceptional in any other way, and then he has this defect on his faces sometimes that's kind of bugging me. So
fair enough.
I'm lukewarm in the art, I guess is what I'm saying.
I'm enjoying the art a lot more than you are. Clearly, I think it's got a really nice flow to it. I will say a huge credit to Jodie Bella's colours, which I think are doing wonders for it.
Why does she have time for this? She colours like so many books, and she's writing, Buffy.
I don't know. Colorists, I swear, are the hardest working people in the industry because there's like a handful of colorist names that I will recognize that show up on so much stuff.
You would think coloring takes a long time.
You'd think, but I don't know how they do it. Like I said, there must be some of the hardest work.
I would have assumed that colouring takes more time than the penciler, but I mean, clearly not.
No, it can't. It can't do based on what they do.
Yeah, it physically can't do, but it feels like it should. But I mean, that's what I know about art. So what are you giving Batgirl?
We're at 7.5.
That's what Matt gave it, funnily enough. I'll give it a 7.5. It would be an 8 if the art was better.
Fair enough.
The art's what drags it down for me a little bit, but I actually did really like this issue. So that will take us on then to Justice League Odyssey issue 5. Joshua Williamson writing, Carmine D. Giandomenico on the art. So this is technically the end of the first arc, although I'm going to be honest here, at the end of the issue when it said the end, I was like, really?
Was it?
Was that an ending?
Yeah. This is one of those things where it made me feel a little bit concerned about this writer shift because it felt like this wasn't the end of the arc. This was going to just carry on, and then it went, well, yeah, I mean, someone else is doing this now, so the end?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the stuff it sets up in this is still going to be like dealt with, but it felt like an excuse to end the trade here, because the first trade is issues 1 to 5, and I'm like, this does not feel like a conclusion to an arc at all.
In no way, no.
In no way, no. Honestly, this issue was probably one of the weaker ones for the most part. I like the dark side stuff and what that's setting up.
Yeah,
but
I agree with that.
The rest of it kind of felt like a lot of it was just fighting,
which looked pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, the art's pretty good, yeah. And, Jess making them all, like, space spikes was kind of cool. There was some fun little...
The page is the double-page spread of Darkseid with, his plan and then all that's coming up. Yeah, because it looks phenomenal.
Because he ultimately comes down to, is like, okay, I planted something here a long time ago because there's a plan in place, a backup plan, in case Apocalypse gets, taken away or destroyed, that the new gods will live on. And then Cyborg learns when he, connects via Mother Box to... something. He basically realizes what Darkseid's plan was. The reason why Kolu took all these worlds and shrank them and hid them was because Darkseid was going to use all these worlds to form a new Apocalypse. Yeah. And that's kind of what the big game plan. And I like that revelation. It was just the fighting with the Azrael, or was it Rapture? Was it Rapture? That's not Rapture, is it? That's Rapture.
Maybe. He was just not Azrael to me. I'm not gonna lie.
It's on the cover. Hold on.
It's on the cover.
Yeah, Rapture. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Rapture, you know, I wasn't really feeling. And then the final cliffhanger is that because Azrael's kind of denounced like his beliefs, he's like, well, in that case, we're going to have to kill these gods. So he's got an army of knockoff Azraels to fight them, presumably.
Yeah.
And you know, yeah, I'm really mixed on this book now. I feel like obviously we weren't a fan when the art had to change, but it was like whatever, we'll see where it's going. This issue is definitely the one that I've enjoyed the least, even though I liked the Dark Side stuff setting up.
Yeah, this feels like it's lost direction.
Yeah.
When this book was announced, had such a clear idea of what it was. And then there was obviously changes, and it got delayed. And the first couple of issues still felt like, okay, we're exploring, right? It's this trio exploring.
I'll be honest, I genuinely wonder if Williamson kind of got out of this book because it did have to change, and he's like, this isn't really what I was writing before. Can you put someone else on this, because this wasn't the idea.
I think it might be, because before we had the whole Darksiders Hannibal Lecter style stuff. We started this with, there are all these old gods, there's some time travel shenanigans going on, right? And I feel like none of that's really that relevant in the last couple of issues. I feel like I think the first 3 issues, he had still been expected. He'd written them before he'd made a decision to leave the book.
Yeah.
4 and 5, I think he knew he was going. It was like, okay, here's what we got.
I get that feeling. And it's out on a busy week. Like, I don't know. Like, like, there's some books that we do in this show where I'm like, if we weren't doing this show, I'd probably stop reading them.
Yeah, this one, it almost gets given a little bit of extra time because it's technically a Justice League book.
It's a tie-in to the overall Justice League story. It's like I say, obviously for stuff that I hate, I'm just not going to read it anyway. But there is kind of this like middle grey area where if I wasn't doing the show, I'd probably stop reading these 2 or 3 books. But because we do the show, I give them a bit more.
Out of interest,
free rein.
Which ones would you say? Obviously, this is one of them.
Is there any else?
I don't know if they're this week, or if you just happen to know off the top of your head.
Not this week, I don't think. I mean,
no, that's fair. This week is mostly a typically week that we're positive on most things.
Green Lantern, actually, that's an easy one.
Oh yeah.
I'd drop that if I wasn't doing the show, but because it's a big, Morrison Sharp book, I feel. And
it's the only Green Lantern.
It's the only Green Lantern book. I feel, inclined to keep reading it. So that's one for sure. I mean, there's not a lot of them. There's a few that are on that kind of fringe, kind of like they're not bad enough that I have to drop them, but I probably wouldn't want to spend money on them if I wasn't doing this show.
Yeah. It'll get maybe 2 issues under Abnett as a chance to see if it can regain some direction. But it is a busy week.
It is a really busy week. Obviously there was 2 annuals, but even at 9 issues without those annuals, going down to 1 less seems kind of appealing when you're not loving all of them. And that's definitely the one that I'd cut. But
yeah, it's easily the one that there might be other books that on a specific week I give a lower score to, but as a whole, it's the one I'm the least enthusiastic about.
Yeah, which is a shame because I was excited for that more than Dark when they were announced.
Yeah, but Dark is undeniably the better book.
Oh, it is. But based on just Cruz being on the team, based on the artist, and just the general direction sounded cool. But all Cruz is still there, but the art's gone, and and the direction feels like it's gone.
Starfire's still there, but
yeah, it's a shame. And I was hoping it would be more personal stories actually, because it was this smaller team of these smaller characters. And it feels like after the first couple, there's not really been much of a chance for any of them to do much beyond have fights.
There's not. I will defend it slightly in that it's called Justice League Odyssey.
Sure, obviously I still expect an epic story overall, but I thought because it's a more focused team of 5, or even 4, 5.
4, yeah, I think I said the trio a few minutes ago. I forgot about Azrael.
Yes. So I thought because it was a smaller team, there'd be more time for that, and there hasn't been, at least recently. So it kind of, I just feel really disappointed with this book, and I don't really blame Williamson or even Sergi. I feel like both of those were kind of at the mercy of what DC forced them to. I think
it's something on editorial for this book. And it's, that was a big problem during the New 52 of things left and right being, okay, editorial's meddling here. I feel like it hasn't been a huge problem recently, but definitely felt it on this one.
Yeah. And it could just be, we want this to tie into more of what Snyder's book's doing, so it has to change these things, and then because
Could be.
of that,
Yeah.
it's this knock-on effect. I mean, at least if it's like amicable and it's like they actually gave in and said, you know, Wilson, Williamson, if you're not feeling this anymore, that's cool. We'll just, you know, you're still on Flash. We'll put you on something else that you're more passionate about. If it was more amicable, then I can kind of forgive it to a point because they're not burning a good writer over it. They're just
because he's still writing Flash quite happily, and no signs of stopping anytime soon. He's clearly doing at least at the very, even if we don't get to 100 issues for whatever reason, at the very least we've got this next year because the annual just said continued throughout 2019.
Yeah, I think he did say at one point though he wants to go to 100. So
he wants to, yeah. But I mean, if for whatever happens, I think it's safe to assume at least this year.
I assume that he's got something planned for issue 100 specifically. Like he's got a return.
I think he probably does at this stage. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. What are you rating Odyssey then?
It's like a 5, and a lot of that's down to Giandomenico.
I'll give it 5.5. I'll go 1/2 point up because of the art and because I do like the dark side stuff, and like there's a couple of fun moments in the fights. Like I say, Jess making the bikes was kind of cool. And
this is the thing, I agree with that. Like I like those moments. I like the dark side thing. I didn't really enjoy reading the book overall.
That's fair. This was one of the last books I read. That's I did intentionally the book I liked till last though, just so that I'd have something to look forward to.
After,
but we'll get to that soon.
What did Matt give it?
Oh, what did Matt give? That's a good point. What did I give it as well? Actually, now you mentioned it. Matt gave it a 7. Not surprised at that.
I'm not. It's Matt.
Just compared to some of his other scores, though, this is the same score as, like, Flash, say.
Yeah, that's weird.
But hey, I mean, it is on his low end, admittedly. I mean,
yes, he will be grilled.
But yeah, I'll give it 5.5. So, we'll move on then. We'll move on to The Terrifics, issue 12 by Jeff Lemire and Viktor Bogdanovic. And this is continuing where we left off last time. Terrific is with the Dreadfuls.
Yes.
What I say. And he's in trouble. He's getting his ass kicked, and he's in this other Earth. We get introduced to kind of who the Dreadfuls are. Let me just open this up so I can actually say them properly. But yes, we meet Metal Morpho.
Yeah.
Who's the Metamorpho from Earth 44. And then we have Phantom Boy, who's the sulking spectral teen from Earth 13.
Nice little bit of rhyme in there.
And we get Plasma Man, who is a vampire plastic man from Earth 43.
Yeah.
Which, I have to admit, that's my favourite. Seeing him with the fangs.
The fangs, yeah.
I
it's
like
all about
a lot.
the fangs.
I like that a lot.
His teeth anyway, though. He could just give himself fangs.
This is true.
It's just a cool look.
That's true. And then we continue. Yeah. Aye. So we see back on Big Zittle. Phantom Girl's not happy with this arranged marriage, and she basically, runs.
Buggers off.
Yeah, she basically waits for her mother to leave the room and then goes off and gives over her family necklace to pay for a trip to Earth on a spaceship. And Metamorpho looks like he's going to go in to secure the orb that turned him back into a human, with the intention of thinking that this will get me all this I'm feeling, because last issue we were talking a lot about how he doesn't seem happy that he's normal and he's with Sapphire, even though that's kind of what he's always wanted. And obviously we were speculating that he kind of actually got a taste for doing things and being a part of a team and being a hero, despite of whatever else. And Plastic Man's trying to bond with his son. He plays him at basketball, and they both use their powers. And
yeah,
this is all just fun stuff. I thought all this stuff was good little character beats. This is the kind of thing that I wish Justice League was doing sometimes.
Sure,
it's just giving me these downbeat moments. And he kind of wins over his son by stealing the Batmobile for a ride, because he said, I can get you a ride in the Batmobile, and I'm like, well, you probably can, but Batman's going to kick your ass for it.
yeah
It was my
which he acknowledges
thought. Which he does. So Phantom Girl sneaks in to I say sneaks, I mean she's obviously allowed there, but she sneaks into Terrific's tower, and she basically gets the mayday call from Terrific about what's happening to him from his T-spheres. And she basically puts out the SOS to the other team members, and their T-belts light up and say, something's happening. And she goes on the comms and says, hey guys, Mr. Terrific needs our help. You guys have to come in and help. We need to do this. And, Plastic Man's like, hey, I guess, you need to go, but, hey, do you want to join a superhero team to his son. So it looks like his son's tagging along. So they're going to bond with some superheroics.
Yeah.
I even more than that though, I like Metamorpho kind of looking at his belt and kind of looking at the orb, and then we just hear like over the comms again, like Phantom Girl saying, "Rex, Plas, please, I need you guys. I can't do this alone." And he just says, "I'm sorry, Sapphire," and then smashes the orb and becomes Metamorpho again. He makes and we kind of always thought it was going this way, that he was going to make the choice to become it again.
Bit of a dickbag move to create the dog again. That dog was probably very happy being a regular dog.
Does the dog care though?
It might. He looks a bit horrified. He's like, "What have you done to me?" Look at that face at the end.
So that's actually the final page. The final page is him Metamorpho again. And he's like, "You heard her, you dog. Phantom Girl needs us. The Terrifics need us." And it's like, next time it's the Terrifics versus the Dreadfuls. I kind of loved this issue.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I did.
I'm mixed. I liked everything in it. I just didn't. I felt like it didn't have any flow. The scenes were all like, okay, here are big, just like, okay, one scene of each of them. Just like one extended scene. Like that, like I don't know, it didn't have any flow to it for me. And it felt like, oh, okay, I guess I'm on this character now. Oh, okay, now it's this character. It didn't. I don't know, the structure wasn't working for me.
I don't know. I think we've debated this before in a comic where you don't like it jumping between characters, and I'm like, no, we've got 3 characters that we're jumping between, we're rotating through them. It's fine.
Yeah, but I feel like it was the way it was just like, okay, here's the Phantom Girl section. Here's the Plastic Man section. Here's the Metamorpho. So, it was just like, it was very distinctly just like that. And that had no flow for me of just like, okay, just one after the other, get through. Okay, like that. I don't know. Just doesn't work for me.
It flowed just fine for me. I'm not sure what the problem is with that, but I mean, hey, I'm glad I'm positive in something that you're not, because this will counterbalance some Justice League annual stuff. No, I really like this. Bogdanovic's art's fantastic, and I like.
I just don't like him on this book, especially all the stuff on Big Star with just the plain white backgrounds. That was really bothering me.
I know. I like how he draws characters. I like how he does expressions. I like there's a playfulness to it, but it also feels very solid and confident.
Fair enough. I think it's a bit. I don't know. There's something about it that for this book doesn't work for me.
But hey, no, I love the art, and I love that these 2 issues back to back. It took the team apart. They're all separate. They're all doing their own thing. But ultimately, when Terrific needs them, they're going to make the choice to be a team again. And I like that it built up to that moment. I like, I think the biggest way to say that they're making this choice is Metamorpho himself, because him making that choice is the biggest deal out of any of the decisions that are being made here.
Yeah,
and that leads in nicely to them going to rescue Terrific next issue.
So obviously that'll be the next. Like, I imagine the rescue mission will be the next mission, and then the last issue of Lemire stuff will be them. Right, okay, we'll be a team properly. That'll be that issue.
Yeah, and then of course we'll start the new run with.
Which I think I'm probably going to drop at that point. We're talking about how this is a very busy week, and I couldn't even finish that annual that they did. So
that's fair. I mean, I'd say try the first issue he does proper.
We'll see how I feel in the week.
I think you should try the first issue, issue 15.
Because I genuinely thought that annual was dreadful. I was unfinishable.
Well, me and Matt very definitely disagreed with that.
Yeah.
But I am actually kind of looking for. It's nice that Lemire's leaving, but I'm looking forward to who the new writer is. But so that's a nice feeling to have. I'm looking forward to it. Terrifics has never been unenjoyable. Terrifics has always been solid. There's been a couple of weaker issues here or there, but this is kind of what I like from the book. This is kind of what I want from the book. I love that it deals with these smaller moments, and it feels like a traditional heroes choosing to be heroes, choosing to be a team, and that's got a little bit of a punch to it. So I'm looking forward to the next issue. I really liked it. Sure. So what are you giving it?
I'll give it a 6.
Matt gave it a 7.5. Do you know what? I have to admit, Matt's ratings, there's a lot of 7s and 7.5s on his ratings this week. It's actually kind of weird for Matt.
Yeah. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just seeing them in a list like this. We're noticing it more. Yeah,
maybe. I'll give it a straight 8. I actually really like Terrifics this week, so looking forward to more. But hey, that'll take us on then to The Silencer, issue 13, which is our final book of the week. Dan Abnett writing, Kenneth, Marion on the art. And credit to Marion, I wasn't sure what to expect actually, and maybe he did the last issue, I can't remember, but I'm sure it was Bogdanovic up until something. But I actually thought the art did a good job of kind of staying in the tone of what the art's been for a while.
Yeah.
So credit there. So this issue is a very specific concept. It is, and obviously we saw Honor basically die at the end of the last issue, and we knew she was going to Lazarus Pit. So we see every so often, every time it goes to a new memory, we see like a little panel at the top of her eyes inside like the pit.
Yeah.
And it's basically her saying, remember your memories, remember your memories. And we see her as a kid being picked out by Talia from the school. We see her as a teen training. We see one of her early missions. We see her after she killed that one dude when Deathstroke showed up in Gotham. We see, various points throughout her life, and we see her with her family, and that's the one, of course, that hit us with a gut punch where it's fading away. She's trying to remember her life here. And then the final scenes, of course, is Talia in the real world, kind of being like, well, oh, you're telling me she won't come back with all her memories? Good. That's my hope. I want her to be, sort of reset up to a point. And the final page is Honor kneeling down for Talia. And it's like, oh dear. So obviously we're going to get a plot here where she's going to gradually get her memories back. And it's going to be a great moment when she remembers who she is and goes full silencer. Do you know what I liked about this issue? Is I liked that it showed us a lot of Talia through these stages, which I liked, and how she's kind of like dealt with. Because I liked the moment where Talia says, okay, we're going to actually like go quiet for a few years because Leviathan's getting out of hand. And she kind of like almost proposes to, not for marriage, but she proposes an idea to Honor. She's like, a way to get a drink. She's like, oh, maybe we could go somewhere together and hide out. Like, she actually cares about her in some way. She feels a bond with her. And she gets back to the couch and Honor's just gone, even though she was bleeding all over it like seconds ago.
Yeah.
I really liked that moment. Did you like the issue? I've been talking kind of
I felt it was super exposition-y. Like, I get the point of, oh, she's losing these memories, so it has a purpose. But a lot of it felt like it felt like a flashback. It felt verging on prequel-y, sort of in concept of, I don't know how much of this I really needed to see. I don't know. A lot of it felt that way for me. Where I mean, it's just fine, but I didn't really need to see any of this. I got a lot of context throughout the past 12 issues of the book of what her life had been. I'd got the idea that she was orphan. Talia had brought her up, and that she was really close, and they'd gone through all this stuff. The Leviathan. I'd kind of got all that in context. So this felt like a bit of a exposition rehash.
I think it worked for me because, one, it's a nice way to sort of reestablish all these things for the ending to kind of work. But I think what I just brought up there, that moment with Talia where she seems disappointed that Honors ran off, like almost like she felt betrayed that she left that quickly. Like she didn't want to even consider sticking around with Talia. I think the idea of these flashbacks for me is what Honor means to Talia, rather than just like who Honor is and what she's been through. Although that's still certainly there. Like her bashing the other kid's head in the desk, using the silence bubble as well. Was just some good fun stuff. And then the idea of like the mystique of Silencer building in these flashbacks was also kind of cool. But for me, I think what worked about it is that almost every single one of them, if not all of them, had Talia present. Except maybe the last one when she's with her family.
Yeah.
And for me, it was about what she means to Talia and how Talia seems to care about her, even though she's still Talia. She's still kind of a bitch to her.
Yeah.
But she seems to care, and I think it sets up that despite what she's doing to her, there is kind of this sick kind of, like, she does care about her in a weird way. She does actually care that she's still, like, that Silence is still with her, that she's still one of hers. There's almost maybe an obsessive kind of possession kind of thing going on here.
Sure. I don't disagree with that.
And I think that's what this did for me. I enjoyed the issue. I enjoyed the last two more, for sure. But
this is probably my least favorite issue in quite a while. Obviously, the book's been on a real upward trend. And this isn't like I'm worried about the future of the book sort of issue. It's more just okay. It was a specific concept of things that I wasn't that into. Yeah. Like the art though, there's that one of the fight sequences. It's the whole page of silence one is fantastic in particular.
Yeah, really good. What this says to me actually is like her husband and kid are going to think she's dead for a while probably because she's probably going to go back home right now.
Yeah. I would assume we don't see them for a little while.
She's either going to like eventually get a glimpse of a memory and go and seek them out, or we might even get some sort of coincidental thing where
It starts again.
She's working near them or something, and she'll see one of them, and it'll trigger a memory. You know, like I don't know which way it'll be round, but probably one of those.
Yeah, it makes sense. And Talia has just not aged at all in like 25 years, has she?
No, she's not. She's really not. I guess I'll take it as that. I mean, she has aged, but comic art's not very good at showing the difference between a 20-year-old and a 45-year-old. So,
I mean, sure.
I mean, I don't know. I take it when she got honor from the orphanage, she was like 19, 20. She's really ambitious. Like she's starting Leviathan, and then in present day, she's like you're hot 40-something.
Sure, she looks pretty much exactly the same.
Sure. What do you want me to tell you? I don't know.
I just wanted to acknowledge.
I mean, going from comic book timelines here, Batman's supposed to have had all the Robins in like the space of 5 years, which does not make any sense. Yeah, and we
question that all the time.
Yeah.
So it's only fair to question this.
Yeah. Talia should have been pregnant in one of these flashbacks, just for the like, oh, this is where it took place in the timeline. Damien's in there.
Yeah.
Damien's in the oven.
It's fine. We know Damien was growing the tube. She didn't carry him herself.
Sure. But yeah, so that was Silence of 13. No, I enjoy. What are you giving it?
I give it like a 5.5.
That seems harsh, but okay.
It's fine. And I like some of the art, but it just didn't do much for me this issue. Not at all.
Yeah, I'm going with an 8. I actually quite like this. So
no, fair enough.
I mean, there you go. Matt gave it a 7, so he's kind of closer to me, but
a Matt 7 is closer to like my 5.5.
I don't know. Going with all these 7s and 7.5s, it feels like Matt didn't have that great a week.
It's a lot harder to tell without him here talking about it, isn't it?
Yeah, I wonder if like when he's writing them down, he has more time to think, so he's more critical. So it's not so much that he's been harsher this week. That it's just
this is a more reasonable scale that he's using.
I have no idea. But hey, so that is the last book of the week, which takes us on to the section of the show where we pick our favourites of the week, favourite panel / moment, favourite art, favourite cover, and top 5 books. And there's 11 books this week, so top 5 kind of means something for a change, which is nice. Yeah. So what's your panel / moment?
It will be the only thing I choose from Heroes in Crisis. I can tell you that now. It'll probably be that full page of Shining Knight with the dragon, because it's a gorgeous image. Even though as I said, I didn't really get the context of it, but as an image, I loved it.
Matt's moment is also from Heroes in Crisis. It's the Wally is 5 days older than he should be moment.
Fair enough.
Can't argue with that. Obviously, that's a plot development more than the art that he's picking that for, clearly.
Yeah.
I'm also going to go with a Flash thing, though. I'm going with the full page spread of Barry and Iris on the kitchen floor in tears.
Yeah.
I'm going with the emotion, baby. But yeah, what's your favourite cover of the week?
This is tough. There's 2 that I particularly love. Did Matt give these choices? For all of them?
I actually don't see cover.
Okay.
He's got moment and art, and he's got top 5. I don't see cover. I think he's just forgotten that.
In that case, I'm going to double up on cover. I'm going to take Matt's slot.
Okay.
So one of them is the Wonder Woman variant. I thought it's really unique and interesting. And the other one, I'm just going to go with a classic Batgirl variant. We're back to Artgem. I do have to say, though, I actually feel bad about all the Martina covers we picked.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see this? Why he's not doing covers for DC anymore now?
Someone told me, I'm sure. I didn't really look into it, though.
Yeah, he's been caught plagiarizing a lot of his images. And I saw the comparisons myself. They are...
Because I was thinking, are we talking Greg Land levels here? What are we talking about? Like,
it's on other people's drawings. He's copied like all of the pose down to like like the shoes they're wearing, and then just like changing the face to a different character.
Oh, that hurts.
Yeah,
because the art's really good. I mean, maybe he's really good at painting them, but he's not necessarily good at the actual drawing part.
Yeah, that's what I think. Like, I felt because they're great images, but they're definitely very strongly built on someone else's work.
It's just work with another artist then. Make it like a cover.
Yeah,
like, have someone else draw it and then have him paint it. But hey, That sucks. Epting's cover for Action, I think, is what I'm picking. I mean, I love the Art Germ Batgirl cover.
I haven't seen it, so hang on, give me a second. Because I will assume that it's probably pretty good because Epting.
Because Epting, yes.
Yeah, okay, that's pretty nice.
Yeah, I like that cover a lot. So.
Yeah, I'll give you that one.
So, yeah, that's what we're going with. We're going with Epting's Action Comics cover. I'm actually just looking at some of the other. Oh, the Angels don't have variants. Okay, never mind then. So we can then move on to best art of the week, since Matt didn't give his cover. So, what is your art of the week?
That's actually kind of tough. There's a few in contention. I think I'm gonna give it to Wonder Woman, Lupacchino.
Matt gave it to Wonder Woman, although he did say shout out to Epting on Action as well, so he couldn't not mention it. But
that's fair.
He went with Wonder Woman. Yeah, it is. Yeah, there's a couple of books that are really good, but I think I have to go with Epting.
I get it.
On Action.
I will straight up admit that if I were reading that, there's a very strong chance that would have been my pick.
I have to go with Epting. I can't fault it. So that takes us on then to top 5 books of the week. Well, I'll do Matt's first. No, I'll do yours first.
I'll do Matt's first. I'm thinking.
All right. His number 1 is Action. His number 2 is Wonder Woman. His number 3 is the Flash Annual. His number 4 is Heroes in Crisis. Interesting. And number 5 is Terrifics. Yeah, I like Terrifics. Yeah, get in there, Matt.
All right.
What's your top 5?
So my number 1 is the Justice League Annual. Number 2 is Wonder Woman. Number 3, Flash Annual. 4, Batgirl. 5, Flash. Yeah, let's go with Flash.
Okay. It's tough. I think my number 1. I'm conflicted between 2. Screw it. I'll put Flash Annual at number 1. And then Action Comics, and then Wonder Woman number 3, and then Terrifics at number 4, and then Silencer number 5.
All right,
that's my top 5. All right, cool. So that's my top 5. But obviously, when I remember, and I did this week, I will put it on Twitter at DC Comics Podcast if you want to follow us on Twitter.
I just want to say he only remembered because I told him to do this last night.
That doesn't prove that I wouldn't have remembered anyway.
Yeah, but you'd have remembered too late.
Shut up. So there was a lot of love for the Justice League Annual, there was a lot of love for the Flash Annual, and there was some love for Terrifics. I'll read you a couple of the reasons here. From at Tim Robin, or at Tim3Robin more specifically. Flash Annual, like the well, it says mystery, but mystery crisis bad guy appearing again. The Bart stuff, the hint of Zolomon, and at least addressing what happened with Wally. Zolomon was technically the main Flash, but I mean, was Zolomon even mentioned in the annual? I don't think he was. But
no,
you may be right though. At Ben Cumbersome, Flash Annual was good because I'd literally talked with one of my boys about Godspeed the day before I read it. That storyline seems more interesting than the Force Quest, so I hope it continues. I think it will. I think he's setting stuff up. A bunch of more Flash Annuals. Flash Annual, but Terrifics was damn good in my opinion. That was at Corey YNWA, at McComb Factor. Flash Annual issue 2 for the return of Godspeed. So a lot of Flash Annual love. I think Flash Annual is definitely the one that was mentioned the most. And then there was a couple of Justice League mentions throughout because of how big and epic it is, but that was the gist of it. So yeah, it seems like Flash Annual is the one that's doing it for most people. So I guess I picked the right one. Oh, thank you, peoples.
Yeah, you just picked the boring option.
Shut your face. It was either that or Action.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's either that or Action. But yeah, so that leaves me to tell you what's coming next week on the show. Which, if I had it open already, that would be.
Yeah, I've just booted up previews to verify anything that you say. What's this Man and Superman 100-page
Oh, it's mostly.
Spectacular.
I think it's mostly reprint stuff. It's not.
Okay.
I haven't looked into that. Amusingly, I have Doomsday Clock issue 9 still on this list for next week, which clearly it is not.
Come on.
But yeah, coming next week on the show is Batman 64, which is the part of the Batman Flash crossover, which is going to be the whole month. So that's coming up. We have Justice League number 17. We have the Green Lantern issue 4, Young Justice issue 2, Green Arrow 49, and then we also have the first issue of the Female Furies mini. So that's issue 1 of that. And we have Adventures of the Super Sons issue 7. Also out next week, which we will not be covering, is Deathstroke 40, Curse of Brimstone 11, Electric Warriors number 4, Harley Quinn 58, and Suicide Squad Black Files issue 4, rather.
And there's no Electric Warriors.
No, so I mean, moved.
I don't know why anyone would care anyway, but just for the sake of being accurate.
People like that book. You say that very dismissively, but some people really like that book. I've seen some praise for it.
Yes, well, I see praise for Red Hood, so I don't trust people on the internet.
Comments like that alienate members of the audience who enjoy that book. Now, we already don't cover it. They know we don't really care about it. It doesn't really need to be, the knife doesn't need to be twisted in the same way. Given that you've not even read it, you can't even comment on the quality. Red Hood you can shit on because you're forced to read that.
I absorbed it through osmosis.
But don't worry, people. I'll call Connor out on his shit. It's like half this job, quite frankly. Half of it's reading books and talking about them. The other half is just calling Connor out on his shit. But there you go. That's the show. That has been episode 140 of Comics from the Multiverse. And I don't know if we're doing anything for 150. I don't know if we're doing the 50s anymore. I don't know if it's just the hundreds we're celebrating.
Who knows?
I don't know.
Probably just the hundreds now.
I have anything in mind for it, but you know.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's worth mentioning, if you enjoyed this show, especially this week with Matt not being here, if you enjoyed me and Cara talking about comic books, we have a second show called Elsewhere in the Multiverse where we talk about Marvel books and then, in Dark Horse, Image, that kind of thing. The books we're reading, that goes out on Wednesdays, so the new books are already out by the time it goes up, but it's a fun way to relive the previous week's books and have another comics podcast to listen to.
Maybe it's something for you to listen to on your commute to the shop to pick up your new books.
There you go. So that's out. We also have Television from the Multiverse, which is the DC shows that me and Connor talk about as well. We talk about all the CW stuff and DC Universe, and then when Krypton's on, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, obviously, Young Justice just wrapped up the first half of the season.
Yes.
So we spoke about that on the last episode. In a few weeks' time, Doom Patrol is launching. So we're kind of looking forward to that.
So yeah, obviously those have their own audio feeds, as well as you can just find them easily on YouTube. If you're interested in anything else we do that's non-comic book related, we do a lot of movie reviews and TV reviews and stuff like that. You can find them on the YouTube channel. You can find audio feeds. You get links to them on the Patreon page, which is, rolling me right into it. You can go and check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. If you want to support the show, any of the shows, but especially this one, you can go and do that for as little as $1 per month. The $5 tier, you get to vote. You get access to the monthly episode that me and Connor do. The January episode is actually just running a little bit late, but it's coming soon.
Yeah. It turned out the book was bigger than we thought.
Yeah, Doom Patrol Volume 1 by Grant Morrison, the 16-issue book, turned out to be a very meaty read that was hard to squeeze in.
Especially when we thought it was 12 issues to begin with.
Yes, we thought it was shorter than it was. But that's coming very soon for $5 patrons on Patreon. Also, it's worth mentioning the vote for the next one, because February's episode is going to be a voting episode. That'll be up, maybe not by the time this goes up, but it'll be up in the next day or two, so you can look forward to voting on that. You'll have about 2 weeks to vote on that, and then we'll do that in the back half of February. So there's a vote coming up for patrons for the next monthly episode, so look forward to that. But yeah, you can also support us, of course, by liking, subscribing, rating us on your podcast app, all that kind of thing. Let us know what you thought of the books. You can also support us as well if you want to buy some merch. If you want a hoodie with a Comics from the Multiverse logo on it, you can go buy that. There's links in the description to both the US and the UK stores. We've sold hoodies and hats for Comics from the Multiverse. It's kind of delightful. The fact that people have went for the more expensive hoodie over the t-shirt is interesting to me.
I think we're just getting away with it because it's winter.
Probably, yeah. Maybe in summer it'll all be t-shirts, but in winter it's all hoodies. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's all hoodies now. Come summer, it'll be the t-shirts and caps.
Yes, and the plan is to put up maybe like a new shirt design that might also be on a hoodie, depending on what it is, about once a month, which sometimes will be related to something we say on this show, sometimes it'll be related to what we do on another show. Because the first custom one that's went up is a line that I always say on the TV reviews. So if you have shirt ideas, you can pitch them to us, and we'll consider. Maybe there'll be some votes in the future, but there'll be more stuff coming. Quite frankly, the Ginger Degrader's one that's obviously in the running. But yeah, so that has been Comics from the Multiverse, episode 140. Thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep reading comics, guys. Keep reading DC Comics, of course. And always remember that to never get lost in the Speed Force.